freshly ground flour. Everybody, I'm always intrigued when people say, can you make, you know, cookies? And I'm like, can you make waffles out of fresh, will this work? I'm like, it's flour. It will work. And for years and years and years, they've been doing this. So anyway, but I'm going to give you all a little pizza history here in just a minute. But I wanted to share something. I've just been praying and really seeking the Lord. And I just, the Lord laid on my heart at the beginning of this year. I don't know why. Just after the first of the year, I woke up, felt very compelled to read Philippians. And I couldn't get past the introduction in my Bible. It had a little introduction of the history of, you know, where it was written. And I was so intrigued by it because it said this, it was so interesting that this book is so filled with exhortations for the people to be joyful, to rejoice in the Lord, rejoice in the Lord, rejoice in the Lord. Yet Paul wrote this book, this letter to the Philippians from a prison cell. And yet he was telling them to be joyful. And so I'm studying about joy. I decided that I had gotten really grumpy and grumbly over the holidays and the last part of this year. And I thought, wow, Lord, you're really convicting me of being joyful. And I thought the first scripture that I thought of is in Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 10. And it says, the joy of the Lord is your strength. Because the people had gotten kind of discouraged because Ezra stood up and read the book of the law from them, and they realized all the stuff they weren't doing right, you know, so they kind of got depressed. And so Ezra said, no, go home, you know, eat and, you know, be joyful. But he says, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. And I got to thinking about that. If the joy of the Lord is our strength, what do you think the enemy is going to try to attack first? If that's what makes us strong, because we do have an enemy. How many of y'all believe we have an enemy? How many of you don't believe we have an enemy? Raise your hand and I will get you psychological counseling after. Or talk to me and I'll fill you in. We have an enemy. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so I thought about John 10:10 says, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But I have come, Jesus told him, that you might have life and that you might have it to in fullness. And some verses say that you will enjoy life. And so I thought, wow, I just got to thinking about that. I was like, what an attack the enemy has. What a way to get us. If he can rob us of our joy, if he can steal our joy, then we're weak and we're defenseless and we can't defend ourselves. So I just want to encourage you today to be joyful, to rejoice in the Lord. And that verse actually, the joy of the Lord is my strength. It is actually an exclamation of joy. It's not just something you have. It is something you do. And over in Philippians, Paul exhorted the Philippians, rejoice in the Lord. And one verse says, again, I say, rejoice. So I just want to encourage you there to rejoice in the Lord, to let the joy of the Lord be evident to all those around you. Not only is it is your strength, but it is our testimony to a dark and dying world. And people, they need joy. We need to be reaching out, and they need to see hope. So anyway, I want to encourage you with that. Let's pray, and we'll get started. Thank you, Lord, for this glorious day. This is the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. We thank you for all the many blessings that you've given us. Lord, convict our hearts when we want to grumble and complain and be downcast. And just help us to be joyful, to make a joyful noise unto the Lord, to rejoice in you and our hope in you. We have so many things to rejoice in you. And it doesn't depend on our circumstances. It depends on that you sent your son Jesus to die for us, to save us, that our hope is in you, that we're not lost, that we're not living in darkness, that we have you. You're a shield to us. You're our defender. You're our protector. You're our comforter. And in those things we can rejoice, no matter what else is happening around us. I thank you for today, Lord, even though I've already burned part of the dough. I'm just going to believe that you're going to bless this food, bless this time together. I pray a special blessing on every household that's represented here today, that you will meet them where they are, that you would part the heavens and come down and pour forth your mercy and your grace to help them in their time of need. And I thank you, Lord, for all that you've taught me, and I pray that you would help me to share with joy all that you've shown me. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, I got to looking up some history about pizza, and I've discovered that it's kind of, they don't know where it came from, but legend kind of has it that it was invented or is made by Rafael Esposito in Naples. But they had found that actually in the Mediterranean, Greeks and Egyptians were eating pizza-like dishes, flatbreads with stuff on top for years and years and years. But this Rafael Esposito is who is kind of attributed to making the first pizza pie. And it says that he owned a restaurant in Naples, and he baked what he called a pizza, especially for the visit of an Italian king, Umberto I, and Queen Margherita. Margherita. Have you ever wondered where that pizza, have you ever been to a pizza and you see pizza margherita? And it's really tomato sauce with some fresh mozzarella and a little basil. And it's really a very plain dish, but so I guess that's where that comes from. So I thought I would give you a little pizza trivia for those of you that just might like it. I just thought it might make it fun. The first pizzeria in North America was opened in 1905 by a man named, I'm probably saying all these, sorry, my little Italian friend over here is probably saying all these names all wrong. Gennaro Lombardi in New York City. The first Pizza Hut, a chain of pizza restaurants, appeared in the United States during the 1930s. I had no idea they were that old. Frozen pizza was invented by, guess who? Rose Totino. You know, the brand Totino's. The circular pizza and the cake server. You know, don't you just wonder where people's minds go in some of the things they invent? The little plastic thing with the legs that goes in the pizza box to keep the top of the box from flat. Yeah, somebody invented that. I just think, why? Why didn't I think of things like that? And that's like the little cup bands on the coffee cup. You know, the paper. That's paper. Paper. Why didn't I think of that? I remember growing up, my mom always say, why didn't I invent the safety pin? I mean, whoever came up with the safety pin? I mean, they're probably, you know, living great. But anyway, that little pizza saver, and actually they use it for cakes as well, was invented by Carmela Vitali in New York, and he actually filed a U.S. patent for it in February of 1983, and it was issued in February of 1985. I know you just really wanted to know that. You probably lay awake at night kind of going, but I just thought this was interesting. Okay, here we go. Americans eat approximately 350 slices of pizza per second. Per second. I mean, I guess that's an average, because I don't think we eat them at night. But anyway, well, no, we do. All times, have you ever been on a cruise? That's the big thing. It's all night pizza. Let's go get pizza. And of course, you just gorged yourself. But anyway, on the meal at 6 o'clock. And 36% of those pizza slices are pepperoni. That making pepperoni the #1 choice among pizza toppings in the United States. However, I thought you might get a kick out of this. In India, pickled ginger, minced mutton, and cheese are the favorite toppings for pizza slices there. I remember years ago, Brad went to Israel, and he would probably like the food even better now. This was before bread, and but he was getting quite weary of the Greek Mediterranean meal. I mean, breakfast was boiled eggs, cucumbers, tomatoes. Like I said, he'd probably love it now, but we are a big like grits and eggs and meat kind of people, and he was just like oatmeal. So he found a pizza place in Bethlehem, and he decided he would go. The first night they went, they got a tuna fish pizza. That was not what he ordered. I think he ordered pepperoni. What were they thinking? And he got tuna fish. The next, he goes, no, it's he tried to explain it. So the next night they got finally, after 3 tries, with fishy pizzas, they finally got a hot dog pizza, and that was the best. So he tells that story all the time. So other countries put all kinds of things. In Japan, it's a combination of mayonnaise, potatoes, and bacon. Actually, that doesn't sound too bad. We're going to make a potato pizza today. But eel and squid also go on there, and that's their favorite. So yum, yum. Greek pizzas, green peas go on Brazilian pizzas, and Russians love red herring pizza. So there you go. You can, and okay, for all you like hardcore recipe people here today, you're not going to be happy with me, because the only recipes in your handout are for the dough. The rest of it, we're just going to slap it on there. And you got to know, if you want to put mutton and ginger and eel and squid, have at it. Just put it on there. So I have found, though, and now I'm going to have to talk to you guys probably in particular when you're putting toppings on pizza, and we'll go over this in a few minutes when I actually make the toppings. Less is actually more, is better, okay? A lot of people think, oh, the more I load this up, the better this pizza is going to be. and you get it so heavy the crust won't get done, and then you really can't even hardly eat it. I know Chicago-style pizzas really load it with a lot of sauce. If you like that, you can do that, and then they cut it, and you do have to eat it with a fork. So we're going to have fun with making pizzas today, but you're just going to have to take it as it is, and just know once you make the dough, the sky is really the limit. You can put anything on there that you want. In fact, the dessert pizza that we're going to serve you this afternoon, we came up with yesterday afternoon. I actually whipped up another batch of dough because I was like, why didn't I come up with a dessert pizza? And we just did it, and it was fabulous. And so really, I mean, you know, just put anything on a piece of bread and bake it, and it's tasty, you know. So I'm really excited. What I did find out, like I said, I've been making pizza for years and years and years, and honestly, I always have used my basic bread dough recipe, the one for the bread machine that's in the cookbook. I've always just used that. I did wonder, though, how pizza, you know, places got their little bit more chewier crust. It wasn't so bready and soft and stuff. Well, my son actually works in a pizza place. One of my sons here and my daughter actually worked in a pizza place, and he started telling me how he has to go in like at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, and he calls it slapping the dough. They pull the dough out and they slap it and they start getting it right, and it sits there like all day, and it sits in the refrigerator. And I'm like, So I started doing searches for pizza dough. Evidently, authentic pizza dough, you make ahead, and it does have to have a rest time. Doesn't always. One of the doughs here that pizza dough number 1 here, I did make it, and it did say let it rise at room temperature for 1 to 2 hours. If you were gonna, you know, let it rest and use the next day or several days later to go on and put it in the refrigerator at that point. So I did do that one, and it worked very well. The second pizza dough number 2, they really want you on that one to put it in the refrigerator and let it rest. So that means you got to think ahead if you're going to have pizza to an extent, but how easy. My prep this morning was so great because I didn't have to come in here and make, you know, 20, you know, batches of pizza dough. I made it all yesterday. It was all in the refrigerator. So all I had to do today is come in and take it out. We have had so much pizza working with this pizza doughs and seeing which one I like, but it was great. And some of them said the pizza dough keeps in the refrigerator about 3 days. I actually thought this pizza dough number 2 was absolutely my favorite, the best pizza I'd ever made, and it had been in the refrigerator for 5 days. So do you see how wonderful this is, how easy it's going to make pizza making now? Go ahead and make up the dough when you're making other bread one day. Divide it up, put it in your refrigerator, and you can take it out, and then you've got pizza in no time. You should let it, bring it out and let it come to room temperature, so a couple of hours, you know, let it sit out on your counter. But like I did this morning, I was going to let it proof in a warm oven for a few minutes to kind of speed that process along, and then forgot that it was in there and turned on the convection oven to 500 degrees, so I cooked 2 rounds of my dough. So we're going to have to kind of improvise a little bit here. Never fear, we're gonna work it out, but it just won't have rested like it was supposed to be. So the last pizza you'll have today will be unrested dough. So so you can see that it really will still work. But anyway, I think you're going to be excited. I want to tell you the easiest way to make pizza is to get all your ingredients prepped ahead of time so you've got it ready to lay out. So the first thing I want to do for you this morning is we're going to make some pizza dough. Now, pizza dough number 1 mixes up like a traditional pizza bread dough recipe. You put your liquids in, your salt, your honey, everything but the flour. Then you put your flour in, and then you sprinkle your yeast on top and add it in. I mixed it up numerous times in the bread machine. I've done it in the mixer also, but that recipe is just the right size to just dump in the bread machine, put it on dough cycle, and you've got it. And it divides up. I'll tell you about dividing up the dough. There are charts here for pizza size. That should be in your handout there. There's a thing, and we'll talk about sizes in just a little bit, but that one dough makes 3 of the 12-inch thinner crust pizzas. It's about 33 ounces of dough on that one, on that pizza dough number 1. Okay? All right. Always, 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 what do we need first when we're cooking? Apron. Very wise lady once told me, save your clothes, wear an apron. After I had ruined lots of clothes when I first started making bread. especially cinnamon rolls. They were killer, especially when I was pregnant. I had like a little belly stripe of cinnamon and stuff there. So always wear an apron. We got some really cute ones. My daughter-in-law and I went down to the gift mart. I don't even know what day this is, Thursday. We went down Tuesday. I'd never been down there. Oh my, we found some adorable aprons. Some of you moms are gonna love it. We found some mother-daughter ones, matching ones, so cute. We'll probably be getting those in soon. But okay, so that dough is very, very easy to make. And like I said, how many of y'all, surely you all here grind your wheat, right? Is there anybody here that doesn't grind your wheat? Okay, we need to work on that then. Y'all need to come. You need to come Saturday. You need a grain mill. I mean, that's the beginning place. And so I'm assuming that everyone here pretty much knows how to grind your wheat. If you don't know how to use the mill, I'll be happy to show you after class. Can demonstrate. Saturday is a getting started class. We do have 110 people. Don't tell them I told you, but you can come. So if you want to, we'll find a seat for you. So anyway, but before I mix up dough, I forgot all about welcoming my my online audience. I keep forgetting, and I want to make sure all of you are aware that we do web stream our classes live online while they're going on. I guess that was what live means. And then after the class is finished, then they're archived. So if you missed something today, if you're busy eating, one lady one time she came back and she goes, I totally missed what you said you did to that smoked chicken. And she said, because I was so busy eating it, I was just like having this, thing happening, this event that it was so tasty. She said, so I just went back online and watched the class and, oh man, I saw exactly what you did. So I think that's going to be great. And please tell your friends about it, that if they can't come, or, pass the word that our classes are online and are available for you to watch. Of course, you miss the food and the great smells, and who knows what you might miss with me. But anyway, so of course they're going to see it. So I do want to welcome my online audience, and I'm just so glad that we can now do that because we have so many customers out of town. So anyway, all right. So pizza dough number one, like I said, works very well. The bread machine, traditional way to mix it up. I thought that I would mix up pizza dough number two to you. Now, I've not tried mixing it traditionally, but it mixes up very, very different, and it works. You just think that it wouldn't work because it's like, okay, this is really, really strange, and it kind of sloshes around. You'll see what I'm saying in just a minute, or you see what I mean in just a minute, but it works. So I thought I would mix up that batch of dough for you, and I'm going to mix it up in my kitchen assistant. It mixes up odd. I guess you could probably do it in the bread machine too, but I would just, there's not a huge difference in the two recipes. If you look at them, the biggest difference that I see is this pizza dough number two has a little more oil in it than the first one. The first one only has 1 tablespoon of oil. This one has 1/4 cup, but you can see the flour is about the same. Little more water here, and this one has absolutely no sweetener at all. The first recipe has 2½ teaspoons of, I did use sucanat with honey there. I'm sure you could just put a little squeeze or two of honey in it and not use the sucanat with honey, just a little bit of sweetener, and I think it would work just fine. In fact, it's a very stiff dough, and I actually think it could even use that little bit of extra liquid. But in the times I was making it, I started to squeeze honey and not follow the recipe, and I'm like, no, I really want to just stick with this recipe each time I make it to make sure it does that. So you might just put a note out to the side that for sure you could substitute honey there. And I would probably go ahead, the general rule of thumb of substituting honey is that you cut it in half if you're substituting it for sugar or sucanat with honey. I would go ahead and use the full 2½ teaspoons of honey if you did put it in there instead of the sucanat with honey, okay? So I'm going to use the kitchen assistant. I'm not going to spend a lot of time telling you about this. I can show you after class. Saturday's class I'll go over it more, but for those of you that have not seen the kitchen assistant operate, it's the largest non-commercial mixer sold. It is a purchase of a lifetime. I mean, unless you just throw it at somebody, you probably will never purchase another mixer, and it will hold the test of time and do heavy bread doughs. The scraper, very uniquely designed. Scraper goes here on the side. The roller, there's a pin, there's a hole in the top there. The roller, the spring-loaded arm, comes in towards the center. The pin shoots down the middle of the roller, and you're going to let the roller rest up against the side of the bowl. Now, here's what's different. Normally, traditionally, the way I make bread dough is put all my liquids in, my salt, my oil, my honey, everything but my flour and my yeast. turn the mixer on, start adding the flour, get about halfway, sprinkle the yeast. You know, those of you who have seen the demonstration know that drill. But this recipe mixes, like I said, very uniquely. And so I'm going to put all my flour in the mixer at once. And I'm going to double the recipe for you. I just think it's a little, you can see a little better what the mixer is going to do and how the dough is going to mix up. Plus, I need that much dough because I just burned it. So I'm going to go ahead and put my flour in. So doubling the recipe is going to take 9 cups of flour. For pizza dough, I have found that I do like hard white wheat. Spelt would work okay. It'll give you a little bit nuttier flavor. Y'all help me count. That was 4? Okay. I don't know why I didn't measure this out ahead of time. 6, 5. All right, hang on. I'm just going to count. 6, 7, 8, okay, 9. Okay, and see, like I said, you know, before we put the liquids in and then we determine when we've got enough flour. This way, doing it this way, you're going to just do the opposite. You're going to determine what the dough is supposed to look like, and you're going to add extra water or a little extra flour if you need it. If the dough's too soft, you'll add a little extra flour. If the dough's too stiff, you'll add just a tiny bit extra water. Okay, so I've got my flour. Then it says add my salt, and of course I use the Redmond real salt. Sprinkle that over, and then a teaspoon. Did I do 2 teaspoons here? Let me make sure. Yeah, okay, that just all of a sudden that didn't look like 2 teaspoons. So 2 teaspoons because I'm doubling, excuse me, the recipe. All right, and then you're going to turn it on just like you would, you know, if it was just liquids in there, and I keep it kind of low. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and pull the roller away from the side of the bowl. Now remember, when it's liquids, you got to leave that roller up against the side of the bowl as you're adding the flour and then pull it away. But with the flour in there, I'm going to pull the roller away, and then I'm going to add my water and my liquid. Weird, very different. Ice cold water is what you're wanting to add to this dough, not warm. You're really wanting that yeast to work slowly. And notice, see the difference in this recipe and the basic recipe in my book. Did you notice the yeast? For 4.5 cups of bread for flour in the basic bread dough recipe in my cookbook, how much yeast? A tablespoon. This is only a teaspoon for that 4.5 cups of flour. In the first recipe, pizza dough number 1, it's only a 1/2 teaspoon of yeast. So that's the other thing I noticed. Cold dough, put it in the refrigerator, let it rise, much less yeast than you traditionally use. All right? And then this one is odd in that it's ice cold water. You're wanting that dough to stay cold and not really activate, because the warm water activates the yeast and makes it start growing and acting really fast. You're really wanting a slow growing yeast here. All right? So I just put a little ice in my measuring cup and just start stirring it. Sorry, I'll turn that off so you can, there's no reason to keep mixing flour. I'll stir it so it gets melted, the ice gets melted here, and then I'll just check my measurement. But it should be fine if you've got the ice in and you bring it up to the 3 cups, because remember I'm doubling the recipe. All right. Now, this recipe actually said that the oil was optional, the 1/4 cup of oil, but the site that I found this recipe on, the writer had said that they really had perfected pizza and they made just the best pizza every time. And she said the recipe says the 1/4 cup of oil is optional. She said I use it every time. It really makes a softer dough. But you're going to see the first dough we're going to have doesn't have any oil in it, so, or not very much oil. But I found we liked this dough the very best when it had aged in the refrigerator for 4 or 5 days. Fast rise, just letting it sit on the counter. The first time I tried both of these recipes, I made both of them. I made the first one in the bread machine and this one in the mixer. And I divided it out and put what I needed in the refrigerator, but I kept enough for 2 pizzas, one from the dough number 1, one from dough number 2, to make just after sitting for a couple of hours at room temperature. And I will tell you, done that way, we liked dough number 1 for the best. Aged in the refrigerator, we liked dough number 2 the best. Okay? You had a question.
You said 3 cups of water. Are you changing it because it
Oh, I'm sorry. This one, yeah, I'm sorry. This one's a 1 3/4. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm so used to that 1.5 cups of water, and the first recipe is a 1.5 cups of water. Thank you for bringing that out. Okay, so that's going to be 4.5. I mean 3.5. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep. Yes, sir. Yes, yes, yes. The question was, and those of you that couldn't hear, I was saying I'm using 3 cups of water because I'm doubling the recipe. Well, if you notice, the recipe calls for 1 3/4 cups of water. So she just caught where I was fixing to make a mistake here. So it needed to be 3.5 cups of water if I'm doubling it. Okay? All right. So now I'm going to do my 1/4 cup of oil. These are our little mini OXO measuring cups that are fabulous when you're doing 1 2 and 3 tablespoons of oil. They're just so easy to measure your honey and stuff that way, but the 4 tablespoons is a 1/4 cup. All right, so I'm going to just turn my mixer on and I'm just going to dump it in. Go ahead and just dump it in. You could use olive oil dipping sauce here. That would, if you're not going to do a dessert pizza, you certainly wouldn't want the garlic and the Italian seasoning there. All right, this is weird, but here we go. And you just add that cold water, and you just let it mix. And you start looking at it and you're going, wow, is that just really strange? But it works, and it does a really nice job, and you're just gonna look for the dough to become smooth and elastic, just like you do if you were adding the flour a little bit at the time. So we're just gonna let it knead. Notice the arm is kneading the dough. That's the unique design feature of the kitchen assistant, is that it kneads kind of like your hand. Instead of a dough hook that pulls and grabs and stretches, the kitchen assistant kneads that way. So now it's gonna have to knead for about 4 or 5 minutes. And so I'll set my timer here. And I'll move on. I'll keep an eye on it. If it really starts kind of bumping around a little bit, then I know I need to add just a little bit more water there, okay? So just kind of keep an eye on it and see what it needs. Sometimes I'll even, let's stop it and see. It looks a little stiff to me. Let's see what it feels like. Actually, I think it's feeling pretty good. The other thing I've noticed with pizza dough, for those of you that really want to try your hand at tossing and really shaping with your hands, because my son, the first night I made the dough, another recipe, it was very, very soft dough, and he tried to toss it and he couldn't. It would just rip apart on him. So if you want to be, you know, real authentic, and we've got a real treat for you, we're going to let Abigail and Caleb come up here because they have worked in a pizza place, and they're going to toss pizzas for us. So anyway, I couldn't believe her yesterday. I was fighting with it, rolling it out with my rolling pin because it was really stiff because it was cold. And she was back there and she just went choo, 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 and just had it stretched out, and it was like, wow. So anyway, I'm going to add just a tiny bit more water here. I think it's just a little stiff. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely stiff. I am, just so that it does, so I can, because it's just odd. Like when I tried to do it at the high speed, you can do it at higher speed when you're adding the flour to the liquid, but this way it just kind of sloshes a little bit. So, and you're going to see here when I add a little bit of extra water, you kind of go, whoa, that. It is sloshy. So just keep it on the low speed so it doesn't slosh out on you. Okay. And believe it or not, it mixes in. You look and you think, oh, it just made the outside wet. But if you just let it knead there for a few minutes, it'll mix it on in. Now I didn't need to add any water or any flour yesterday. So who knows why it's doing this today. All right, we're gonna let that mix. So that's your pizza dough. So see how easy it is? Just really not a lot of ingredients there. Okay, All right, so we got our pizza dough going, and we'll divide it up in just a little bit and get it ready. But I want to get some of my ingredients ready and prep those for you. The first thing I want to prep is the chicken. I'm going to make for you today an alfredo pizza and a barbecue pizza, barbecue chicken pizza. Now here's what I love. Next to my mill and my mixer and my bread machine, I'm going to have to tell you, my pressure cooker and now the smoker are just tools that I just don't want to be without. And what I've discovered about the smoker is go on and smoke a lot. That didn't sound too good, but anyway, smoke a lot while you're smoking, and then you have it for later use. So when I'm gonna do chicken, I'll just go on and just fill the whole thing up, and it'll hold 8 or 10 breasts at one time. And then we maybe have 3 or 4 of them, depending on how many of us are eating that night for dinner. But then I've got it for omelets or putting on topping for pizza, Alfredo, pasta Alfredo. I mean, my kids love it. And then you've got the smoked chicken already. So take advantage when you're smoking meat. Go ahead and smoke the whole thing full, and then you'll love having that smoked meat on hand. We discovered having smoked meat and all the things you can do with it and how wonderfully it seasons even vegetables when we were in Latvia adopting our son. It's a real big thing there, smoked meats, and you can just go to any little corner market. I mean, the store might be as big as this countertop, and they'll have a counter with smoked meat in it. And so we got really used to buying the smoked chicken, and then we would stir fry cabbage. Cabbage is very prevalent, or I'd make potatoes and we'd chop up the smoked chicken and put in there. It was just wonderful. So I really want to encourage you, if you haven't tried the smoker, you're going to see how easy it is, and it's $49.95. I mean, you can't beat that. And it's all stainless steel. So I tell you what, let me prep my chicken first. And here's what I've discovered with seasoning the chicken. I enjoy using my seasoning packets. This one I'm going to use for you today is the roasted red pepper. If you've not tried, the dip mixes is what they actually are marketed for by Market to Market. The wonderful thing about this is it's real dried herbs, it's real dehydrated onions and garlic, and there's no MSG, no added sugar, no added salt, no flavor enhancers, nothing nasty. It's real dehydrated herbs and spices and onions and things like that. So we have fallen in love with them, and I have learned to use them everywhere. Throw a tablespoon in a pot of beans, throw a tablespoon in a pot of rice, it just kicks it all up a notch. Throw Jack and the Bean in my mashed potatoes, and it now makes a kind of Mexican mashed potatoes. I mean, you will love it if you have them on hand. What I've discovered is flavoring my meats with it and making a rub for my chicken or whatever. So I have discovered this. As you can see, the spice, the pieces of, well, that is just loud. I think that's ready. When it cleans the bowl, it's ready. Okay. Oh, did I never set the timer? I thought I did. I can't wait. Did I turn it? Oh, that's right. I turned it off and didn't do it again. All right. So I don't know if you can see where you are sitting, but they're kind of big chunks. And when I first started using it for a rub, a lot of the pieces would fall off the chicken. It wouldn't stick to it as well. So Ashley actually discovered and told me, throw it in the little TriBest personal blender here and powder it, and then it'll make it a little smoother so it'll really stick to the chicken. So I'm going to do, I usually do 2 or 3 tablespoons, even for maybe 4 if you're doing 8 or 10 breasts, but I'm not doing quite that many now. So I'm just going to put them in the little TriBest blender. Those of you that don't know, this is just the blades on the bottom, and you just engage it. Huh? I'm sorry, I'm using the roasted red pepper. It's my favorite for the chicken. If I'm doing pasta Alfredo, I might use the pesto impostabilities. If I'm doing for Mexican, like fajitas or whatever, and that's what I want to use it for, then I'll use the Jack and the Bean, which has more of the Mexican kind of seasonings, the cumin and things like that. Can y'all see okay over there? Or you can see above too. All right, so I'm going to just put my chicken, let me get this out of the way. But see how much now it powdered it really nicely. So I'm just going to put my chicken in the bowl. I'm going to add my spices, sprinkle it over. Actually, that was a lot for that little bit of chicken. I've already done ahead what we're going to use today in class. And these are, I found these at the gift mart. I'm thinking about carrying them. This is actually a salt grinder. Y'all like them? I think they're so pretty. They're made in Maine, and they're made of solid maple. The guy that owns the company, bought the company, he was a drummer in a band and never could find drumsticks that suited him, so he started making his own. And then one day somebody called him and said, "Who knows wood better than you?" And so he bought this salt and pepper shaker company, and they're all made with maple. Really, really pretty design. So I'll put a little pepper. Okay. And then I'm going to do a little bit of olive oil. And here I usually, if I have it on hand, I'll just do a little bit of the olive oil dipping sauce because it's already got some garlic and a little Italian seasoning in it. So I'll just do this. Okay. Before I get my hands goopy, I'm going to go ahead and get my, I'm going to go on and get my smoker ready. The smoker is made of stainless steel, but it is not magnetic, so I can't use it on my induction burner. So I'm going to use our portable butane stove. They sell for like $39, I think, or they're not very much. Abby maybe could find out. And they come in their own little carrying case. These are great to have on hand. Emergencies, if you're worried about ice storm, losing power, or you go camping, or you, tailgate or whatever, they're just wonderful. The little butane can goes in here, and I think it burns for several hours. So I'm going to use my little Jacquard butane burner, and all you do to smoke the chicken is, here, these are, I like mesquite or hickory best for the chicken, either one. The smoker comes with 4 containers, little sample containers of chips. It comes with hickory, oak, cherry, and alder. But I particularly like mesquite. I just love the flavor of it. So I'm going to just put a little mesquite wood down here in the bottom.
And they are actually reduced to $23.99.
Oh, okay. These are the little butane burners. And they're just, they come in their own little carrying case. It's just great. And the butane, you don't have to buy here. You can get it at Walmart or any hardware store or whatever. They're fabulous to have around. So that's the Jacquard portable cooking stove.
$23.99. Refills are, and you're going to have to repeat it.
Okay.
$4.21.
$23.99 on sale. The Jacquard, and $4.21 for the can of butane. So I'm going to put about the owner's manual. There's directions that come with it. Tells you about a tablespoon and a half. Again, don't think, oh, if a little bit was good, a lot is even better. It will, especially mesquite, it'll be really strong and bitter if you use too much. So you really don't want to use a lot of these wood chips. Also, I want you to understand, I love smoked food, but I won't buy it because typically it's filled with chemicals and artificial smoke flavor. That is not what this is. These are just wood chips. They're not soaked in anything, any type of flavor, any type of chemical. It's just mesquite wood chips, ground up. Can't wait to use, our neighbor actually cut down a pecan tree and brought me some pecan wood over to use. We have a big smoker at home, and but I can't wait to grind up some of that and use that wood in here. So all you need is a little tablespoon and a half of the wood chips. And we have all kinds of flavors out there for you to try. And you mound it up in the center. You don't sprinkle it, spread it out. You just mound it right there. Then you put the drip pan on top. You put the rack in here. And then now I'm going to toss my chicken and just get it really good and coated. I'm going to tell you, though, that Greenwise chicken sausage that Publix has, just a plain old sausage, nothing spectacular. You smoke it, just throw it in there. It is phenomenal. It takes an ordinary chicken sausage that's breakfast sausage and makes it incredible. And, okay, so I've got my chicken good and coated. And I usually, if my chicken breast, a lot of times, you know how your chicken breast, you'll have one big one and then one kind of small one. So I'll sometimes cut the big ones in half just so that they're all about the same size. My son Caleb, last week, when he actually smoked the chicken to put on the pizza, he sliced it in half and made a thin like cutlet out of it. and we only had to smoke it 10 minutes. So that's a thought too. These I'll probably smoke about 20 since they're a little thicker pieces. And then I've discovered once the chicken's done, once my timer goes off, then I'll just turn it off and let it sit there and just rest just a little bit before I try to slice it. And that really is pretty typical of what you should do with any meat. I'll wash my hands real good here. And I've started keeping grapefruit seed extract by my kitchen sink. We use it in the winter time a lot for colds and flus and things like that. I don't know if you all know about grapefruit seed extract. It's a great antibiotic, antiviral, antifungal, just fabulous to have on hand from the cold and flu season. But there were studies done at the University of Georgia, and they found that it was more effective than chlorine in disinfecting their meat packaging, stainless steel tables. And so I thought, well, I think I'll just keep it by my kitchen sink and put just a couple of drops on my wet hands after I've been handling chicken or meat and things like that, and I'll drip a little on my cutting board when to just disinfect my cutting boards, just to make sure that they're all clean. So that's something you might want to keep on hand. Disinfect your toothbrushes, and we have a whole line now of GSE, grapefruit, and it's grapefruit seed extract is what that stands for. We have a whole line of products now, from shower gels. You know, that's what's in deodorant soap is antibiotics, but it's not the kind you really want to be putting on your body and taking internally. So the grapefruit seed extract is just great. So we have toothpaste and deodorant and just all kinds of great new products out there. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide my lid now on my smoker. It has little grooves here that you just get it locked in. And then what you want to do is you want to leave it just partially cracked and then turn it on. And then what we'll do is you want to leave it cracked so you can tell when it starts smoking. And then once it starts smoking, you'll shut the lid down tight, and then that's when you start your timer. Okay? So that's what we're going to do there. So I'm going to just move that. Oh, let's keep it in the picture at least, so you can see when it starts smoking. It doesn't take long. All right, so while it's getting ready here, I want to braise my potatoes. Again, just like the chicken, these are fast and easy to do, so you could certainly prep them if you're going to make a potato pizza. How many of you ever had potato pizza? Anybody ever had this loaded potato pizza? It was so funny. Yesterday I made a loaded potato pizza, barbecue chicken and pineapple pizza, and then the traditional meat lovers pizza. And everybody was like, oh, the barbecue is my favorite. And then over here somebody said, oh, the potato pizza is my favorite. And then over here, oh, I just really like this, you know, the beef and pepperoni pizza. So it was funny to see how everybody had their favorite. But you could certainly, the potatoes in a pressure cooker are ready in 1 to 2 minutes. I kid you not. Even a whole 10 pounds of potatoes to mash are ready in 3 to 4 minutes. That's just all you need to pressure them. You see why I like my pressure cookers? This is fast food in a way that you just never dreamed of. This is real fast food. And so I'm going to, I went on and prepped the potatoes yesterday, but then I thought today I really wanted you to see how fast and easy they are. Okay, let me get back to my smoker here. See it smoking? So now all I'm going to do is shut this down all the way. And then now really no smoke comes out to speak of. If it does, then you can just kind of press down and that'll tighten that up a little bit. All right, I'm going to turn my heat down just a little bit, kind of medium high is what you want. And the next time when I use this, it's a little hard to do it now, but here's what you want to do. Before you close it, you want to just press that down and that'll help that. Woo! Shut that up a little better. All right, so that's our smoker, and it's going to be smoking the chicken. Let me set the timer for 15 minutes here, since there's not very much in there. All right. Potatoes, quick and easy to do. So again, just like with the chicken, when I'm doing potatoes, I go on and do a big batch. They're very good the next morning. I actually almost like them after I've done them the first time because they're a little wet. But the next morning, I'll take the leftovers and throw them in the fry pan with a little more olive oil dipping sauce, and they make like wonderful hash browns or, you know, that kind of thing. Crisp them up. My kids absolutely love them. Or, as you can see today, you can use them on potato pizza. So if you've got them in the refrigerator already made, there you go. When I have company over for dinner or something, I'll, like I said, make a lot. You have some left over. It's just a great way to use them up. And my kids love the potato pizza. So I'm going to just get the pan hot here. That was a little olive oil dipping sauce. You could just use a little regular oil here. I love the Fissler pressure cookers, and you could do this in any of the sizes of pressure cookers if you want. If you have a pot, you know, a stock pot. Our biggest selling pressure cookers, the Fissler pressure cookers, is the Quattro set, which comes with a 6-liter stock pot and a little 2-liter fry pan. No matter what size pressure cookers you have, I personally think at some point you want a shallow, open one to do dishes like your braised potatoes, things that you really need to kind of stir around a little bit, or your meats, your chicken breasts and things like that. Can you pile them up inside a stock pot? Absolutely. But it's just really nice to be able to have them just kind of, you know, laid out here where you can get to them and not just be down in a stock pot. So I tell most people at some point you probably really are going to want to get a fry pan. This is Fissler's Nova Grill set. It has the waffle bottoms, which really can crisp up your meat and braise your meats really nicely. Comes with a steaming basket and a glass lid and the pressure lid. And it sells for $250, $255, I think, something like that. Okay, I've prepped, Abigail prepped the potatoes for us. We just tossed them with a little olive oil dipping sauce, and so they wouldn't turn dark. That's another little trick I learned. If you're prepping and you need to go ahead and cut your potatoes a little early, just toss them in a little olive oil. Gonna dump them in here. See, and this is why I like the shallow open dish when I'm doing something like braised potatoes, so that I can stir it here. Yes, now the first time I ever made potato pizza, normally I make the braised potatoes with the little cubes. You can dice them. And the first time I made potato pizza, that's the way I used them. That's what I had in the refrigerator. But when I made it the other night to, you know, kind of perfect the recipe and exactly what I do for the class, I used the diced potatoes, and my kids said, you know, most of the time it's sliced, and I think it would be better if you had the slices. And yesterday I did use the slices, but honestly, you can do anything. I think you could probably even spread mashed potatoes on the crust, and I mean, I really do. So don't get all like, oh, I have to slice the potatoes if I'm going to make potato pizza. It gives a little bit better coverage with the slices instead of the cubes. So that's why I just went on and sliced them. So I'm just going to stir them around a little bit, let it get good and hot. Now, always with the pressure cooker, you need some water, a little water to create the steam. Also, another thing I've discovered about potatoes is you really should salt them when you're cooking them. You know, some things you can salt afterwards, but potatoes are really best salted when you're cooking them. It just seems like if you don't, they just never can quite get salty enough. I guess maybe because they're so bland, I don't know. But they just really take up that seasoning more when you're cooking them. So I like to season them in the beginning. Hang on there, got a little stick in here. Don't want that to happen. There we go. Which I do love the Turner by Fissler. These are really nice when you're kind of frying things up like that. And now, you got to have a little water to create steam, but you don't want a lot. You're not like boiling them, so you just want to pour a little bit down the side. And I used maybe 4 or 5 tablespoons. That probably is even enough. And now quickly put your lid on. And now the Fissler has a lock mechanism, so you want to lock that, that lid down by just pushing that blue button back. And then that'll start, you'll see the steam kind of escaping here for just a little bit, and then eventually it'll close, it'll get all that out of there, and then it'll start building pressure. It won't take long because that was already hot.
Tell them how you would cook these potatoes if you didn't have a pressure cooker. Like, would you boil them? Would you
Yeah.
fry them?
Okay. She's saying I probably should tell you how to cook them if you didn't have a pressure cooker. I would just do them in a skillet on the stove. It's just going to take a little bit longer to get them done, whereas here it's only going to take a minute or so, and it'd probably take 20 minutes to get them tender. Okay? No, you do not. You do not have to have the waffle bottom at all. The waffle bottom is kind of it's a new kind of design feature that a lot of people are going with. The biggest thing that the waffle bottom is doing or helping you do is it helps you braise meat without adding any oil or anything on the bottom to the bottom of the pan, and the meat won't stick. It'll stick initially, but once the natural fats and oils start coming out of the meat, in just a minute or two, it'll totally release, and you can just pick it up and flip it over. And the other thing is the points of the little waffles kind of distribute the heat real well, and so you get a nice braise, a browning effect. That's the main feature of the waffle bottom. But no, you don't have to have a waffle bottom fry pan, you know, especially for the potatoes, and I just put oil in there. So that kind of really doesn't matter there. But the question was, do you have to have the waffle bottom? And like I said, you can do this in a stock pot. If you have a tall pot, you can just stir them and coat them and salt them and just put a little bit of water there instead of a little, you know, more like you do for your mashed potatoes, and then just steam them. I have found with putting them on the potato pizza, if I want the pieces to stay kind of whole and intact, we really are only going to pressure this like 1 minute, and then I'm going to quick release it by running water over it. We've discovered any more than that, these potatoes are really way too done, and they almost get kind of start mashing and coming apart. You know, if you're going to mash the potatoes, 2 or 3 minutes doesn't matter, and then let them natural release. What does it matter? You're fixing to mash them up. So, and you want them as tender as possible. So there we go. All right, so this is fixing to come up to pressure here. I'm going to let Caleb come up and do one more prep item here. We're going to saute some spinach for you. So I'm going to get out another burner. I'll move the mixer off, and I'll get out another burner here, and we'll do the spinach, and then we get going rolling pizzas. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's really stiff. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Down there. This is my oldest son, Caleb. He has worked in the restaurant business for quite a while, and he is cooking some good food for us here lately. And he made this Alfredo pizza, this chicken Alfredo pizza, and I'm like, okay, we are so doing that in the class. He kicked it up a notch than I had done. I was just going to put the chicken and the Alfredo sauce and maybe a little red peppers. Caleb actually roasted red peppers for you from scratch. They're phenomenal. Whole big pan full of them and sliced them each one. And now he's going to saute some spinach. I usually just throw the raw spinach on. I think you can do that. He said he likes it better sauteed. So just know that you can just mound the raw spinach on there if you want, but he really liked seasoning the spinach and sauteing it, and I'm going to tell you, it was divine, the pizza he made. So I'm going to let him do his thing here for just a second. What you need? Okay, let me get you mic'd.
You're not going to put that on me.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to put that on you.
What you doing back there?
I'm playing. I'm your mom, so don't worry about it. I changed your diaper one time.
All right. I'm going to start out with just heating a little bit of oil and some of the olive oil dipping sauce with a little garlic and herbs and stuff in it. So.
Oh, you can't see him? Let's scoot him. Let's scoot it all over. Can you, now? Is that good? Okay.
There we go. A little better?
I'm wondering if
All right.
I should let you go in and start slapping dough.
I'll start just heating a little bit of oil and garlic and these herbs and stuff in olive oil dipping sauce to get all the flavors kind of into the oil. Good.
Some doughs and tell me which pans they go on. Tell you what, do you want me to do these before they get too warm?
A little bit of extra garlic.
They're so soft.
Okay. Go ahead and get it. Go ahead and get these spread and laid out over there.
So all these will be all part of it.
Yeah, but I want to show them two.
How about 2 or 3?
Go on and get 2 ready.
Sorry, I'm the worst at measuring. And when you're sautéing garlic, you never want to cook it too long. You really just want to kind of start to soften it up and get the flavors into the oil and stuff, because it'll start to turn bitter after a little while. So.
Okay, let me take you over here and see the pressures come up. You see how the little white rings are showing? You want to take it up to the second white ring. And once it gets there, that's when you start your timer, and that's when you reduce your heat to low to medium low. And you just have to gauge that by your burner. My induction burner here, I can take down to like setting 2 or 3. The highest is 9. So I'm going to take it on down. It's going to release the steam, so you can't build up so much pressure this thing's going to explode. It's not going to happen. It's got all kinds of built-in safety features. It'll start releasing that steam. But if you hear this sound and you see the steam coming out, that's an indication that your heat's too high. It's letting out steam, so you just take that temperature on down. And I'm going to take it down to about 4 right now. You can press your little lock button to release some of that steam, and that'll bring that pressure on down. And as Lars says, give you a little facial. That's not going to burn you, you know, open up those pores. So now I'm going to set my timer here for 1 minute. And the nice thing about the induction burners, these induction burners by Fissler's, they have a little timer on it. So it'll 1 minute and it'll turn itself off. So that's really nice.
Okay,
all right.
We've got the heat going over here just a little bit. So start to get just a little bit of color on your garlic. Start off with a little higher heat than when you put your spinach in. We're going to add a little bit of chicken stock. You could add some white wine or something to it just to get the little steam going, so you wilt that down. And believe me, this seems like a whole lot of spinach, but you'll really end up with only about a 1/6 of what you're starting with. So. All right. So let's start steaming a little bit.
Okay, the potatoes are done. And you can let them naturally release if you want to. And we tried them several ways yesterday, a couple of times. And we found that really just that 1 minute and then a quick release, they were great. If we let it naturally release, they were really a little bit overdone. But like I said, you can still use them. But if you want the pieces to kind of stay intact but be done, and know that you're going to cook them again in the oven with the pizza. So 3 ways to let your pressure down. You can stand here and hold this if you really want to, you know, sauna or steam bath, or you can just let it naturally release. The pressure will drop on its own now that the heat's off, or we can do what's called a quick release. I'm going to take it over to the sink. I'm going to run cold water on just the edge of the lid, and it'll bring the pressure right down.
Just going to add a little fresh cracked pepper, salt.
And it doesn't take much to get your spinach done.
Really just trying to wilt it a little bit rather than cook it. Don't you have a pair of tongs?
Probably not. In the 3rd drawer. I am, just because I'm getting tired of standing here holding it. So I'm doubly quick releasing it.
Thought you had some rubber coated ones.
It doesn't take long, but it's nice. Like normally at home when I'm quick releasing it, I'll sit it on the divider of the sink, and you know, and you got something to rest it on. But that was getting a little building my muscles a little there holding it. So, all right, that's my chicken. I think it's done, so I'm going to turn it off. Turn my timer off. And then now you just slide the little blue lever up. That unlocks the lid, so now you can open it. You cannot open these pressure cookers until the pressure is completely down. So there's no chance of you open it and all of a sudden something comes flying out at you because the pressure's still built up. So you're just going to open the lid away from you, and look, there they are, nice and tender potatoes. Yep, totally done in 1 minute. Can you believe that? These are one of my favorite side dishes to serve for dinner with meatloaf or barbecue chicken or whatever. And I can have barbecue chicken, braised potatoes, and fresh green beans on the table in less than 30 minutes because the chicken only takes 10 minutes. Now I usually smoke the chicken, so I get it going first and then set the table and kind of get everything ready, and then I'll braise my potatoes and do my green beans, and then we're ready to eat. Still in less than 30 minutes because the chicken only takes about 20, at the most 30. So, all right, so our potatoes are ready. I'm going to just set these aside because I actually did some other potatoes that I can use on the pizza.
Just going to dump off a little of this extra liquid since we're putting it on pizza. Mm-hmm.
That is the olive oil. Her question is that olive oil dipping sauce that I'm using, and does it need to be refrigerated, and how long does it last? So that was the question. Yes, that was olive oil dipping sauce that I use, and by that I mean it's a recipe in my red book, but basically it's olive oil with a lot of garlic, some Italian seasoning. I bring mine to a simmer just until the garlic starts sizzling. Like Caleb was saying, you don't want to cook that garlic until it's brown because then it gets kind of bitter. And so you just until it starts sizzling, and then you want to get that off the stove, add a little bit of salt, and it keeps on my counter until I use it up. I don't refrigerate it. Olive oil is a kind of a natural preservative, and garlic is a natural preservative. So you're really fine to just leave it on the kitchen counter. I've been doing it for years, and I've never had any trouble with the olive oil dipping sauce. And I just keep a quart jar by my stove. We've discovered frying eggs in it. You ought to try it. And my little granddaughter can't have dairy, and so Brad was making omelets the other day, and he asked her, they had come over, and he asked her if she wanted a fried egg, and she was like, okay, yeah. And so he made it in olive oil dipping sauce. Yeah, when Ashley walked in, she was like, oh, Mom, Papa makes the best eggs. You should taste it. He puts this and this and this on it instead of butter. They are so good. She was just intrigued. You get me.
What?
Oh, I have my own. I'm the celebrity. So don't be afraid to try that. Use that olive oil dipping sauce in places where you least expect it. But does that answer your question? And no, I don't need to. I've never refrigerated. In fact, when you do refrigerate olive oil, it'll solidify. So I just keep it on the counter, and I use it way before it would it would spoil anyway. Because we make about a quart every every couple of weeks. Because we grill cheese sandwiches in it. Put that down instead of butter. I rub my meats in it. When I'm roasting a chicken, smoking a chicken, we'll rub the outside and salt it with that. We just use it everywhere. Put a little blob in my brown rice. When I'm browning, you know how you toast your rice a little bit before you make it? Instead of just using regular olive oil, I just use the olive oil dipping sauce. And the other day, I used that oil in the pizza dough. I'll use it in the tortilla dough. So I use it everywhere. It's great. It's got your garlic and your Italian seasonings. Answer to all life's problems. All life's cooking problems anyway. Other than, strawberry shortcake and cheesecake and things like that. No. But it's just fabulous to have on hand. So, and our olive oil is wonderful. It is truly extra virgin olive oil. We've discovered that the olive oil industry is not the most reputable, and that you may be thinking is extra virgin, even though it's labeled, is probably not. So you just have to really be careful of your sources, and we've discovered that, and so we have a very reputable Greek fella that we deal with, and he knows where this is made. He knows the people personally, and so he's bringing it in now from Greece. It's very reasonably priced for real extra virgin olive oil, and we now actually have it in a half-liter bottle too. He gave me these to just use up here to cook with, but we have it in glass bottles, but we have it in the 3-liter tin. Okay? All right. We are ready to slap some dough, as they say at the pizza store. Y'all ready? Okay.
You ready for these finished ones?
Nope. Let's leave those for a few minutes, and then we're going to do the little 12-inch pizzas. I tell you what, I'll divide this dough first, so we can let it start resting. Okay, we're done with those burners if you want to just put them away. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, we're going to do the 12-inch first. Mm-hmm. They're still right here. All right. And you may be going, okay, I thought I came to a pizza class. Oh, we need one more of these. One from the shop. But that's part of pizza making, is get everything prepped. Grate your cheese. I love my slicer shredder attachment to my kitchen assistant. I'll grate all that cheese and I freeze it. Then it's ready. When you're browning ground beef or spaghetti or whatever, brown some extra and stick it in the freezer, and then you have it ready. And like I said, if you've got all this stuff prepped, you can have pizza on the table in just a few minutes. They bake in 15. If you've got your dough already in the refrigerator and you just take it out, you can roll it out, and it just doesn't take any time at all to have pizza on the table. All right, I tell you what we're going to do before I use the dough that I have rested. I'm going to go on and divide this dough. Now, it is very stiff. You see how much stiffer this is than bread dough. Remember, one of the reasons it's this stiff is because it is cold. This dough is very, very cold. So I'm going to divide this up. And, okay, I'm trying to figure out what size I need. It was big. It was the 1.5 pounds that I burned. So.
2 of them that were on.
Mm-hmm. And let me just tell you this. You're probably going to want a little kitchen scale. I do weigh the dough for the pizza particularly. And your little cheat sheet is there in your handout for what sizes that you want. It was really interesting. One of the recipes said, in fact, it was recipe number 2, which is this dough, said to divide it in like 6 pieces, and you can make 6 12-inch pizzas out of that. Well, we were having trouble getting the 12-inch pizzas out of about much more dough than that. So I kind of came up with what I felt like was a good amount, 6 ounces for a calzone or a little 9-inch personal pan pizza, which, you know, this is a 12-inch pan. You could certainly do a 9-inch pizza on this 12-inch pan if you wanted little individuals. I found 12 ounces, actually the pizza dough number 1, I divided into 3 pieces that were 11.4 ounces each. So a little under 12 ounces there, but it worked really nicely. 16, that was for a thin crust. 16 to 18 ounces for a 12 ounce with a little bit thicker crust there. Okay, if you want more like a deep dish pizza. And then a good 1.5 pounds or 24 ounces for the bigger, we're going to put some on a stainless steel pan, the 15-inch stainless steel pans that we carry. Okay, so that's what you want. So I'm going to divide this into, it should make 3, should make 3 1.5 pound pizzas. This is really stiff. I did measure that dough right, didn't I? But again, it's cold, so I would say we'd put it in the oven to proof it, but I don't think I'm having good luck there. And what it says is to kind of shape it into your ball, and I flatten it a little bit. Yeah. Hang on, let me weigh it. All right, this is, hang on, what was that? Something's not right here. Okay, there it is. It was totally on ounces. That was like, what is that? So that's 1 pound, 6 ounces. I usually take it to 1 pound, 8. Okay, there you go. Okay. Pound 4. Y'all are so quiet. Are y'all just like, I didn't feed y'all when you came in. Y'all are mad at me. Is that what it is? You're like, but I was like, you don't want pizza at 10. I don't know. Maybe you do. We used to have pizza for breakfast. Cold pizza for breakfast is actually very, very good. I know what I wanted to encourage you and tell you. Don't let anybody tell you that pizza is junky food. Yeah, you know what the junky part on store-bought pizza is? The white flour. The toppings just aren't really that bad. I mean, I realize there's probably some chemicals in the pepperoni and stuff like that that they use, but for the most part, honestly, for fast food, it's not so bad, other than the white flour. And there's where I just really I can't compromise there. You know, I can go into the burger place and take my bun and put the burger on my bun if I do have to eat burger, but there's not a whole lot you can do at the pizza place. You're stuck with the white flour. So get over having to buy store-bought pizza for pizza night. It's just, do you see how easy it is? This is faster than waiting for the guy to bring it to you. All right, let's see how much that is. All right, that's enough to make almost a little 12-inch. I'll tell you what, we'll pinch just a little off of each one. Now that you rolled those so nicely.
I'll take it off the bottom.
Okay. I messed it all up. Okay, go away. All right. Now I'm at 11.5. I'm fine. So this will make a 12-inch. All right, and we'll rest them. And what I do to rest them, if I'm not making dessert pizza, which you might not want to I coated them all with the olive oil dipping sauce with the garlic, because you do want to oil them to rest them. And so you might not want to coat them with the olive oil dipping sauce, because then you can't use it for dessert unless you want garlic and Italian seasoning on your dessert pizza, which I don't think you do. So we're going to baste these with a little bit of oil. And then what I do to rest them in the refrigerator is you can either put them down in a little you can put them in individual Ziploc bags, and that's actually what I did the first time, and it was fabulous. If you know you want to just take a couple out at a time to use, so you could put these in a Ziploc bag, or you want to hand me that pan and I'll show them what I did yesterday. If you know you're having a big pizza party and you're going to use a lot, then you can just put them all on a cookie sheet, and then just, everybody laughs at me because I use trash bags for everything. You know, you don't want to use the black ones. The lawn and garden ones have chemicals and things in them. So make sure you use a white one that doesn't have any fragrance or Febreze, or I couldn't believe all the trash bag choices that we have at, but anyway, so just make sure you just get a plain one that doesn't have any fragrance or anything like that, and then you can just put this on a pan and slide it down in the bag. I'll actually slide this one down in the bag and let these rest just a little bit like that, because we're ready to start using those pretty quickly. And you see, even with the yeast, the little bit of yeast in there and the cold temperature, they rise. See, they rise, and it just amazes me. I just never thought they would rise that much in the refrigerator with that little bit of yeast in there. So we'll get these ready. We made them yesterday, and then we took them out when I got here this morning, because you're supposed to let them sit at room temperature for a couple of hours.
These aren't 12 inches,
No, these are the big ones. These are the 15-inch. We are. Not right now.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So, all right. Here's my little baggies of my dough for my 12-inch pizzas, okay? This is about 11.6 ounces of dough. It was that #1 recipe divided into thirds. So you can get 3 little 12-inch pizzas out of that. To me, I used much more dough than this traditionally all these years. And I just really didn't think that we could get this rolled out to make a 12-inch pizza, but you really can. All right, I'm going to let my pros slap some dough here, and I'm going to do it the cheater way and use my wonderful pizza roller. You'll love this if you're not gifted like they are.
You took the cheater board.
I took the cheater board. All right, here. I don't need.
I said you take it.
Oh, okay.
You don't need the room.
Okay. If you're gonna, you want to move that out of the way? I tell you what. Before we do this, let's open the chicken and let them see it, and then we can get this totally out of here, because I already have a whole container full of chicken. Is it in the mirror? All right. There's our chicken. Oh, could y'all smell it? Whew, golly, that's fabulous. Yes. As soon as you mix it up. The question is, at what where in the process of making the dough would you freeze it if you want to do it? Just like I just shaped them when I divided the dough, you shape it. You divide it. You shape it into rounds. You kind of press it into a flat, about 5 inches in diameter. Either refrigerate it or freeze it at that point. And technically, I shouldn't have even let it sit in the bowl at all. As soon as it was done mixing, I could have dealt with it right then. And that's why this dough is actually rising a little bit more, is because it sat for about an hour yesterday at room temperature, and then I shaped it and put it in the refrigerator. So honestly, you should just, as soon as it's done kneading, you should shape it and go on and put it in your bags in the refrigerator or the freezer. And in the freezer, it says it can keep for about 3 months.
Can I take this?
So there's the chicken. We're going to slice that up. Yes, you put the oil on it before you put it in the bag, whatever. Either if you put it out on a cookie sheet, you oil those rounds, those dough balls, okay? Or you oil them to put them in your Ziploc bags, each of my Ziploc bag. And you can either oil the ball of dough. What I did this morning, because I was in such a hurry when I had to make extra dough this morning, is I just took spray and just sprayed inside the bag. Just sprayed and then threw my ball in there, and that coated it just like that, okay? Yes, you oil your dough. It's in the directions. It says to oil your ball of dough, and then put it in the refrigerator. Either put it on a cookie sheet, slide it in a bag, or put it in an individual Ziploc bag. Okay? All righty. I should not have just played with this. Also know that the more you play with the dough, the more elastic it becomes, and it will fight you. You want it to be soft. You want it to have risen a little bit so you can really work. When I say soft, you don't want soft dough. Your dough has to be a little stiffer if you're going to fling it like they're going to do. You want this on that? Oh, okay. But if it keeps springing back on you and you can't get it to roll, then just let it rest for about 5 minutes, and it'll soften on up so you can roll it on out. Everything I've read says to put cornmeal down on your pizza pans, so I just ground some of our yellow corn. Our USA pans, I absolutely love them. They only come in the 12-inch size, but they bake so quickly and so nicely, and they slide right off. So you can just kind of keep baking and keep going. And if you shape them the way they're showing you, you can, shape them, and then they're ready for the next cooking. And that's actually what I'm going to do today. They truly are nonstick. You do not have to put anything on these pans, even the cake pans. And they're made in USA. That's why they're called USA pans. So they're a steel pan coated with silicone. You don't want to cut on them. So when I get done, I am going to slide these off and then cut them off of the pan. All right, so I'm going to sprinkle each pan with a little cornmeal, a little corn flour, and this is just yellow corn that I ground in the mill. You do know that you can make cornmeal in your mill, right? Everybody shake your head. Please tell me that. It's so funny, huh? Oh, you can't see what he's doing. Well, hey, come on, honey.
This is my test project. You go ahead.
All right, we're gonna shape them all. Every pizza we're having today, we're gonna shape in front of you. Well, you're flinging on me.
Welcome
all right.
to pizza making.
Yeah.
Is that why David's covered with flour every time I see him? So, all right. Well, I'm gonna do it like the cheater way.
It's a little stiff.
I'm gonna put mine in the middle of the pizza pan, and I'm gonna take the pizza roller. Oh, no. It won't stick. Not going to happen. And I just work out from the center. Normally, I have to, on my pizza pans at home, they're not nonstick. I just spin the pizza pan. But these are so nonstick that the dough moves, okay? This is the hardest part about making pizza dough, is rolling it out. And that's not even that hard when you have the right tools or the know-how. And this is, like I said, about 11 ounces of dough. If you want a little thicker crust, because that's what's taken the most time, is that this is such a small amount of dough. Also, if you aren't like flinging capable, slapping or what. All right. All right, see, I don't got it.
It's not just tossing it back and forth.
What you're really doing at this point,
you're trying to stretch
right?
it.
You're throwing it from and you're turning it as you go. Okay, so you kind of.
As what's? Oh, you just blew a hole in my dough. That's why I don't do that. But I can hear what's his name? The Louisiana guy that's passed away now. But if you ain't got the motion,
Justin
you
Wilson.
ain't got it right. So I can see that I ain't got the motion. I got other motions, but that ain't one of them. All right, so I'm just going to go back to my rolling. And we're going to fix his big hole there.
You got to leave it thick in the middle. That's why I go around the outside with my palm. So then as you're stretching, you're really pulling that center out towards the edge as you go.
Well, we have some extra dough that's resting over there if someone wants to try rolling. Anybody want to try their hand at that? Not really? You don't want to be made? Yeah, no, I'm letting Sue be made a fool of up there. Go ahead. She's teaching the pizza class. She can't even roll out pizza. I'm rolling. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I got it thin.
Yeah.
The rolling it like this gets it thin in the middle, and that's what he was saying when you're slapping. And this is where the other end is kind of handy, because then it really directs where you need to thin out and get that little lip there on the pizza. Okay? Mm-hmm.
Do it all by hand. Can I go ahead and do it?
Yeah, hang on. Let me think what we're doing. Where did you get that from?
Out of the bag.
Okay. Those I'm not ready yet because they got to go on these pans after they bake. So we're going to roll some more in just a minute. Let's get these in the oven so we can start eating. Sorry, we're having our own little chat session up here. Sorry, Okay. So then I usually then take my hands and just kind of make a little lip there. And like I said, look, do you see how that's, see? Somebody asked me even if I rolled it out, was it still going to slide? Yes. Still not going to stick. That's the wonderful thing about these pans. Okay. Yes. Do what? Yes, we can. Oh, she wants me to leave cheese off of one little portion because she's dairy sensitive. Yeah, just help me remember when I'm shaping. When I'm loading. Okay. All right, now here's where I said you were going to get mad at me if you're like hardcore, have to have a recipe. There's no recipe after this part. So what your recipe is what you got. But if you will look at the last sheet, I'm going to show you what kind of pizzas I'm making today. And so if you want to make any notes there, the first one I'm going to make for you is a traditional meat lovers, ground beef, sausage, and pepperoni, okay? Now, Brad and I personally don't eat pork, so we've made the turkey sausage recipe from the Red Cookbook, that's under the savory bread variations that we make, the meat-filled breads. How many of y'all have come to a Getting Started class? You know the turkey sausage bread. Yep. So that's where that recipe is. So get that from there, and Abby made a whole bunch of that turkey sausage yesterday. Now, the other thing that I have learned to do with pizza, Number one, it gives the crust a nice flavor, but number two, the olive oil kind of seals the dough and helps it not get soggy when you put your tomato sauce on it. So that's something that I learned to do as well. So I basted each one with some olive oil. I tell you what, if you want to, I'll give these to you now that they've seen me do this, and you can go on and start olive oiling it. Oh, you want to roll it just a little bit? Okay. Or here, you want to do that one, and I'll just keep working on this one. All right, so now, this is our traditional tomato sauce. Okay, this is just a pizza sauce. I actually got this at like Restaurant Depot. And this can be as saucy as you like it. Y'all are like really quiet. Y'all are probably looking at your watch going, are we really going to get all these pizzas done? These are convection ovens behind me, so once we get these loaded, they cook in about 15 minutes. So it is, yes, you could certainly make your own. I've used spaghetti sauce, ragu, you know, whatever. But this is a pizza sauce that I get at Restaurant Depot in like industrial cans. And I just, and they do sell a pizza sauce little jar at Publix. So you can do that. Or like I said, I've used tomato paste. That's a little richer base. Got a little more strong tomato flavor. If I use tomato paste, then I'll usually sprinkle some Italian seasoning or some fresh herbs, basil, thyme, oregano, something like that on the sauce. So sometimes the ragu or some of those brands, they have so much sugar in them that they make it sweet, and I'm not a big fan of that. So that's what I did. Yep, I bought the big number 10 can, and I just took it out and put it in, well, I'll show you. And I labeled it. Yep, that came out of my freezer. It's just dripping the water where it was frozen. I just labeled it when I had opened them, and I have several stacks of these in my freezer. So. It was a pizza sauce, actually a pizza sauce, and it was at a restaurant supply. So I don't know if BJ, Sam's, or Costco have something like that. They might. In fact, I think they do. I think I've gotten it there, and they're really, really cheap. Yes, go ahead and be doing that. On the traditional, I'm going to use a traditional just grated mozzarella, and so I used yesterday about 12 ounces of cheese for a 15-inch pizza, the little bit bigger pizza. Again, I used to load it up with cheese, you know, and just really make the ingredients real heavy on top. And I started discovering that you really didn't need that much to make it a nice pizza. And I started watching them, you know, when they making pizzas. Just okay, yeah, we will. These all three are going to be the same, so we'll try to remember to leave it off of. Just keep reminding me, Sheila. We've got to take care of you. So, all right. So I put the. Yeah. Oh, I meant to bring. I was going to bring one and make it from you. I was going to make you your little personal pizza. Man. All right. This is just ground beef that we browned, and like I said, we browned it ahead of time. You got it in the freezer or the refrigerator already browned. Then I just sprinkle it on. And like I said, we don't eat pork, so I make the turkey sausage recipe that's in my cookbook. I use that everywhere. We make sausage biscuits. We use it on the pizza. We make, of course, the bread. Yeah. It's under the savory variations. I've done it both ways, and that's the way I used to always do it because I think it kind of makes the flavors. Her question, I'm sorry, I have to remember to repeat the question, is can you put the meat on the sauce, then the meat, then the cheese? Absolutely. And that's the way for years I used to do it. And I think it makes the tomato sauce meld with the meat flavors a little bit more. But I've watched them at the pizza place, and they typically put the sauce, the cheese, then the toppings. Yeah, I think it's probably more for look, but anyway. And a Chicago pizza actually layers your meat. It puts a little thin layer of sauce, and then it layers your cheese, your meat, your toppings, and then it puts sauce again over the top. because they really go for the sauce there. But you really, it's whatever you like, okay? And I've done it both ways. Now, again, I don't do pork, and most pepperoni is pork. Hormel does make a turkey pepperoni. It does have chemicals in it, and I'm going to tell you, I do compromise sometimes there if we want pepperoni pizza. But, okay, I know this one's called Traditional Meat Lovers, but I'm going to make it a little not so traditional. This is marinated zucchini and squash that we marinated in the roasted red pepper seasoning dip, just like I tossed the chicken. I tossed it, this is just yellow squash that we sliced, and this is zucchini that we sliced. And just like I tossed the chicken in a little bit of oil and a little bit of seasoning, then we dehydrated it. So now I've got it all the time. So we're going to use that for our pepperoni. And it'll kind of soften up when it gets in the oven. And you can use it fresh without dehydrating it. We've done that too. Our favorite is when it's dehydrated. But also the nice thing about having it dehydrated is then you've got it. You know, you're not like, oh, I got to slice and marinate Okay, we're using some beef and some sausage.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, this is a meat lovers.
Sorry.
Okay. Oh, we put cheese on it all. You didn't tell us, Sheila.
Sorry.
All right.
You were handling it. Forgot.
All right, we might have to make you a little special one.
Yeah, we can do that
We got that little piece of dough.
The cheese is going to run all over. It'd be easier to make.
Yeah, it'll be easier to make you your little separate one. All right. Okay. So there, and then I usually toss mine a little sprinkling of Parmesan cheese over this. Okay. And then of course onions, bell peppers. If you want a little bit of that on there, you can do that. And then, what was the other thing? Where's my Italian seasoning? I do a little sprinkling of Italian seasoning. This can be fresh. It can be just, this is just the packaged Italian seasoning. Just going to kick it up there a little bit. All right.
A little piece of dough.
I'm not sure. Oh, it's in the pan here.
Yeah, just go ahead.
This one?
Okay. Are we all ready here? This need Parmesan? Yes, ma'am.
Harry's carries a pepperoni made by Applegate that
Oh.
is totally chemical free, and it is wonderful. It just comes in a little larger slices. They're about a 3-inch round.
Oh, that's good to know. Did you hear that? Harry's carries a brand of pepperoni that is totally chemical free.
Made by Applegate.
Is it pork or turkey?
It is turkey. It is not pork.
Okay, made by Applegate. So there you go. That is good to know. Because that was the only thing I hated about the Hormel brand, which I guess I probably shouldn't be saying brands on the, whatever.
Well, we still use it.
Yeah, we still use it. All righty. So these three are ready to go in. Now, as far as oven temperature and baking, I usually bake my pizzas around 400. These recipes said 500, 550. Then when I read on, whoever wrote that same lady that wrote the blog site and gave you tips, she said she found 450 worked the best for her oven. So play around a little bit there. If your oven gets really hot, then that's going to probably toast your cheese before your crust can get done. With the thinner crust, that's not likely because they get done pretty fast. But when you go to a deep dish, which we're going to do in just a minute, you got to cook it a little slower to let that crust get done. All right, we're going to pop these all in back here. I actually, today I did, I cranked them up to, sorry, hang on a minute. I put them at 550 and it turned it down to 430, I think is what it did. It dropped it down that low. But yeah, I'm at 430. But I got to tell you, I don't know if I should say this, I don't like my ovens. I have a real trouble getting them to come up to temperature. So even when I'm baking bread, like in my getting started class, I have to crank them up to like 400 and something on the regular bake cycle for them to even get up to 350. So yeah, I'm at like 550 back here, and it's, yeah, well, I'll tell you what the temperature's at. Oh, it makes a liar out of me. They're at 450. So that's what temperature the oven actually is. I set it at 530 on a true convection, and so it did, but they've been preheating since 9:30 this morning. Yes, which that's the other thing I don't like about them is they take forever to preheat.
You don't have any non-dairy
So,
cheese? You said you had some, but
I don't have any non-dairy cheese here, so she just said just leave it off, okay?
So if your oven does heat okay,
If your oven heats okay,
we'll switch over to convection. What temperature do you put it on to hit convection?
I would put it at 450. That's what temperature at home in my regular old ancient Harvest Gold, you know, the 60s oven that's just a piece of, that oven is just fabulous. I love it. I usually cook around 400 to 450, and that's usually about 15 minutes there, okay? So, you know, well, I guess maybe set it at 450 and let your convection oven take it down. Yeah, that's what I cook it on at home is 450. All right, now.
did you put zucchini on the pizza I was making?
Yes, I did. Okay. All right, now we're going to do our stainless steel 16-inch pizza pans. You want to go get me 2 of those?
Are you putting both of these kinds on here? What do you have here? Zucchini and squash?
Yeah. Yes. Uh-huh. Do you have 2 or 1? Okay. All right, this is another brand of pizza pan we have. This is nice because it makes a deeper dish pizza, and it does make a little lip on it. These must be greased, so however your choice of greasing is. Mine is
Flour?
gonna put, I put a little Pam on it, or whatever this, huh?
Cut on them.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, you can cut on them. The question is, you can cut on these. These are stainless steel, so you can cut right on these pans. All right, we're going to give it a little sprinkle with, I know, I was about that too. Keep your Parmesan and your cornmeal separate. We were about to coat the pan with Parmesan cheese, but hey, we might invent something, you know? You never know. All right. What is this going to be? I forgot. Potato. This is going to be the loaded potato pizza. All right? So we're going to use 2 of, yeah.
And let Caleb roll one out so he can show them how he did his. These are perfect for talking.
Okay. All right, this will be mine. This will be mine. I'll show y'all how I normally roll mine out. Okay? This is about 1.5 pounds of dough for a 15-inch pizza. Okay? And like he was fussing at me because I was fixing to handle it. You don't want to, once it's rested and come to room temperature, you don't want to be handling a lot, or it's just going to be rubbery again. It's not going to roll out well.
By hand, it's very important that you keep a nice round shape to begin with. Because if you're doing it by hand, if you don't have a round, nice, uniform shape to begin with, you're not going to end up with a nice round shape.
Right. Which, well, even rolling it with the roller, I always make a round. When I knead it into a ball to let it rest, and then I flatten it out to a disc, I keep that round shape. You want to start with a round shape. You don't want to just start with a blob of dough. All right? Here. Come on. I'll share. Come on. Come on.
Let's get our cornmeal over there.
Okay. All right. Can y'all see? It can be. Or no, you can leave it whole because we might have it for dinner. Okay, see how I start from the center and I roll out. These are $8. They're just fabulous. I rarely use a big rolling pin. And even when I am rolling it, like with this dough that's a little stiffer, because my bread dough was always much softer, and it was very, very easy to roll out. So with this dough a little stiffer, now, like I said, I don't got the motion that they've got.
What you can do, even if you can't toss it,
I pick it up and,
pick it up and
yes.
put it on your knuckles here.
Yep, that's what I was
and
fixing to
just
show them.
Walk it around. Yeah.
Yep, that's what I was fixing to do. Just let the weight of the dough work for you a little bit. I mean, if you're trying to build some nice muscles and you're aggravated with somebody, just, yeah.
You can use your thumbs.
Yeah, okay. So
don't
see,
use fingertips at all.
right. And then see, that'll, Then you can stretch it, but let the weight of the dough actually pull down and stretch that out, okay? This is a great thing, though, to give the kids and say, here, roll this out. Brad will always roll out my dough for me. So get involved. It's a great family night, so don't make it just you in there in the kitchen. Get everybody in there, you know, and are you waiting on me for something? Oh, go ahead and do your thing. They're,
Just a little bit.
all right. Would y'all like me to leave? Okay, and this is where at some point I usually just get in there with my hands and push it up, okay? And this is where Brad likes this end. Sure.
I want to do it all by hand. Start out with a nice round shape, and then I use the palm of my hand right here to start your crust, to start your whole edge, and just turn as you go, like, and leave it. You want to leave it nice and thick in the center, because then that's where you're going to stretch from. So start your crust out like that, and turn it over, and then you use your fingertips right here to just start working that crust and start stretching the edge. A little bigger as you go, and then you use one hand.
Really.
Start pulling it out and patting it as you go.
Yeah.
Am I out of the thing? Oh, there. All right.
Yeah, and that's like Abby was saying, with a nicer dough like this, that you saw how stiff that dough was. It really does need to be a little stiffer. You don't have to be as afraid of it. And if you tear it, like when he threw that one up and it tore it, just plop it down on the counter and pinch it back together. It just doesn't.
When it's soft and stretchy like this is the dough that was made yesterday, so it had time to rise. You really don't have to be afraid. You can really stretch it and pull on it, and it's gonna, because it's gonna shrink back no matter what. So the more you pull on it, it's gonna shrink down to the right size.
Yeah, if it's kneaded correctly. And okay, I think I interrupted myself when I was telling you what flour I use, or what wheat I use. I prefer hard white wheat. It is a yeast dough. Even though you're using a very small amount of yeast, you want a hard wheat because you have to have that gluten content in there to make it stretchy like this, okay? This is dough number 2, yes. Behind door number 1, we have, okay? And like I said, if you find it just keeps kind of pushing back on you, then sit that pan aside and bring in that first one you started with, and then see how that, now I can really push that on up, okay, and make a crust there. All right, so let's get this one loaded up. This one I'm still gonna, this is gonna be my loaded potato. Josh can roll dough too, can't you? Oh, come on, don't be shy. This is my other son, Joshua. So y'all have got number 2, number 3, and number 5 here today. Number one's out there in the store. Y'all.
We're just numbers now.
Yes, you are. Number 1, Ashley's out in the store.
You've got number 5/6 here.
Oh yeah, I've got baby in the tummy here. Number 6 grandchild, and we saw him yesterday. We saw him. I got to go with her to the doctor, and I saw him. Oh my, I cried. I don't know how anybody can do that without crying. I asked the little lady doing the ultrasound, I said, does this ever get old to you? And she said, never gets old. I mean, we saw, as soon as she popped up on the screen, there was his little hand like this, and he was just like this, and then he took this hand and went like this, and then he took his foot and went like that. And she said, the only reason you're not feeling that is because it's such a lightweight right now, but won't be long. You'll be feeling all that movement going on in there. And I was like, how can anybody say that that's not a life? I mean, I'm going to cry, sorry. That was my little grandbaby in there, and that's a baby. That's a baby. And he's got feelings. He does, because she said, he's moving. We're waking him up because it was like 9:30 in the morning. She says, he's moving because I'm pressing around on him. He's like, what are you doing out there? So, and I told Abby, I said, I'll never forget. She's the only one of mine I had an ultrasound with late enough to see what sex she was, but I still didn't want to know. I'm old school. I don't want to know till they come out. That's the excitement. But she was number 5 child. We had a girl and then 3 boys. And Brad was like, I need to know, because if it's another boy, we got to move or add a room on, because we already had 3 boys packed into an 8x8, bedroom. And Ashley was over there, queen of the day, in a room all by herself. So why I didn't figure it out, and I said, I don't want to know. So I turned my head when they got down there to their private parts, and she held up a little sign to what it was on Brad, and I didn't want to know. And I never asked him, never did want to know. But all I remember is Abigail was a thumb sucker. And I'll never forget, to this day, they clicked on, and the first thing I saw, or the last thing, when they were finishing up, she took her little hand and she went like that, and she popped it in her mouth, and you could see her little jawbones going, and she was a little thumb sucker in the womb. So hey, and I'll never forget seeing that, how vivid that was. So. He wore it other times too, so it just never dawned on me.
Here, I'll grease the next one if you want to.
Okay, all right. Yep, there we go. So anyway.
You're in the screen right there.
Oh, I'm in the screen here?
Oil one.
Don't oil one?
Yeah, leave this one out. Okay.
Actually, leave 2 unoiled. Those are the Alfredo ones. Yep. Okay. All righty. Potato pizza. You ready for this? Okay, we've oiled it with some olive oil dipping sauce. Sour cream. You can use ricotta here, I think. You could probably use whatever you like, but, baked potatoes, sour cream, it's got it going on. This is a carbohydrates dream. We did think that yesterday it would probably have been better with a little bit of some kind of beef bacon. That would have been the ultimate loaded potato. I think some chives would be good on it. Whatever you like on your potato pizza or your baked potato, you could certainly do it here. I probably put, I know I measured it the last time, and it was about a half a cup on the 12-inch. This looks like I put a little more than a half a cup here, but maybe we can take some of that off. I'd say anywhere around a half a cup of, maybe a little more, because I remember the night I measured it when I was first trying to come up with amounts for you, and I did a half a cup, and they all thought that it needed a little bit more, that it was a little dry. So now I'm gonna, where's my Parmesan? I put the Parmesan on the sour cream here. I don't know why I didn't think to get some chives. Chives would have been really good. I'm going to sprinkle this one with a little fresh thyme is what I'm going to do. Okay, so got my Parmesan. And now these are my leftover potatoes, or my potatoes I actually did, Abby did a whole batch of them yesterday.
What? Sour cream?
Yeah, we're making 2 potato ones and then 2 Alfredo ones. Okay. All right, any questions? Y'all are quiet. Y'all need to, I don't know.
Hey, Mom, this is actually probably closer to a cup of sour cream.
Okay.
I kind of eyeballed it when I dolloped it in there. Probably closer to a cup.
And if you want your potatoes to be a little prettier, you can, really arrange them, but it's going to be covered with cheese, and so you really don't see the potatoes that much. I've put when I did the cube potatoes, I actually put them on top of the cheese. So you can really do it any way you want. What are some other pizzas I make? Oh, I usually make a vegetable pizza. I like the spinach, onions, mushrooms, and I've just piled the spinach on top. And that's one area, if you do use raw spinach instead of the sautéed, you can really mound it up, because just remember how spinach cooks down when you cook that whole bag and you have one serving. Just think about that on the pizza too. So that is one area that you can go a little heavier if you're using the raw spinach. All right? So there's my my potatoes. I didn't mix anything with the sour cream. I think you certainly could. Some of the spice mixes that we have, the dip mixes, would probably be wonderful on there. Oh yeah, or even the dill if you want kind of that thing going on. Just y'all got to get creative now. Come on, you know. Remember what Lars? How many of y'all saw Lars, the German chef? Remember, recipes are what? A suggestion. They're just a suggestion. So overrated is what he says. Recipes are overrated. All right. I am going to use on the potato pizza, instead of mozzarella, I'm using one of our raw milk cheeses. And this is, I just thought, what better than the chive peppercorn? Or I know it's a peppercorn. I don't know if it has chive. I think it's chive peppercorn. Fabulous. Wait till you taste it. All right. I know yesterday I weighed out the cheese on this size pizza when I did the meat lovers, and I did about 12. I weighed out 16 ounces, but it was really too much, so I backed off. So it was somewhere between 12 and 16 ounces of mozzarella on the meat lovers for the 15-inch. So that'll let you know about how much you need to use. This is our raw milk cheddar. Yes. Yep. This is the raw milk cheese that we sell. Which, Brad, could you go get a block of the raw milk cheese and show them? It's the peppercorn one. Also, the sun-dried tomato I'm going to use on the... Is that what it is? Okay. And the sun-dried tomato basil, I think, is what I'm using on the Alfredo pizza. I have used the smoked cheddar on the barbecue pizza that I'm going to make for you today. But I think we were running a little low on the smoked, so I decided I would just use the mozzarella. But it's pretty good. Not pretty good, it's very good. If you like smoked, because that's like a double whammy of smoke. All right. Did you put Parmesan?
You did.
Okay, that's okay. That's all right. We can do it.
You're moving so fast.
Huh. How am I doing on time? Oh, we're all right. Y'all are like we are?
I don't know, because I'm starving.
Okay, well, thankfully they get done pretty fast.
Aren't you guys starving? I'm starving.
They're not, I already know them though. They're not leaving till the dessert pizzas come out, so you're not going to want to miss the dessert ones.
Are we done with these potatoes?
Yep. Okay. So there's that. All right. Okay. Everybody asked me if I was cold today because I have on short sleeves, and I was like, well, I honestly didn't know that it was going to be 28 degrees last night. I thought it was going to still be warm, but then I thought I wore this because I knew I was going to have 4 ovens behind me at 500 degrees, and I had visualized probably cooking them all at the same time, but you know, I've never done this class before, so you never know exactly how everything's gonna play out. So, as it turns out, it's taking me about, well, poo. Sheesh, what am I doing? All right. Okay, so that's our potato pizza. Gonna take a little, Caleb chopped up a little fresh thyme. I just think that'll be nice on it. Okay, you want to just show them up? Oh, here, I will. Okay. All right, potato pizza going in. Yikes.
Alfredo ones? Do you have those
Yes,
on?
let's do the Alfredo. Yep, I've got all 4 ovens on. Let's do Alfredo here. Again, he's gonna just baste this with a little olive oil dipping sauce. No, that's right. He's not, because the Alfredo has so much oil in it already. So I have done it both ways, but we can't quite figure out why this Alfredo today is oiling off a little bit more than normal, so we decided we wouldn't baste it. You sure you don't want to put just a little down?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay. What you need?
Spoon.
Spoon, over here.
There we go.
That's us? Okay.
All right.
So I'm going to let him, this is a basic, classic Alfredo sauce. Don't buy those jars of nasty stuff. I'm sorry. Just don't. Look at the recipe. The recipe for Alfredo should be in your handout. Very easy. Very, very easy. I made 8 recipes yesterday, or Abby did. It stores in the refrigerator great. You can heat it up and then toss it on some noodles, or you can make your
This actually worked out really well because it thickened
Alfredo,
up a little bit.
your pizzas here. We're gonna do the Alfredo sauce, and well, I'll let him keep going with that. I got to get my notes and figure out what pizza I'm doing next. All right. Barbecue chicken. Okay. All right. Let me show you what's fabulous about the USA pizza pans. Yes, we're gonna serve y'all some pizza. I bought these little boards at like Restaurant Depot because I knew I was gonna have to slide them off the. We need to get. We'll count how many people there are. So here's the thing with the USA pans. Have you ever done it and cooked it on a pizza stone? I'll address that in just a second. But yeah, so there's our pizzas. Let me slide this one here.
So how long will that Alfredo sauce?
The one I have in my refrigerator right now, the question is how long will the Alfredo sauce stay good? Couple of weeks. Yep, I've had it. Yep. Yes. Yes, I'm sorry. I shouldn't keep saying Restaurant Depot everywhere. That's a great advertisement for them. I should, talk to them about this. But you have to have we get to go in Restaurant Depot because we own a bakery. It really is an ingredient kind of supply place, but they have everything. But it's kind of like a Sam's or BJ's for restaurants. A business license of some type of food industry. Yeah, so it's not like BJ's where you can just go pay a membership. You have to have a business license. It is for businesses. Okay. So are we cutting them in slices? I think, well, and then I cut each one, then. Okay, so see how nicely the pizzas slide off of the USA pans. It just does not stick at all. So anyway, there's our meat lovers. All right, y'all ready to eat? Y'all hungry? All right. Are you hungry? Yes. Okay, hang on. Let me get the other pizza. You want to bring that other pizza over here? Because I need these pans. Yikes. A little warm. We had pizza night over Christmas holidays, and we had my sister-in-law that works here, Karen, her family came over. So there was like 25 people in my little house. If y'all saw my little house, this is about as big as my house. But so we had 25 people, and we did pizza. And so David brought me pizza boxes from the pizza place where he works. So I cooked them, and because I just have the one little wall unit, it's not convection. So I cooked them and put them in the pizza boxes, and so that's why I had gotten those cardboard little rounds so that I could slide them off. And then you can cut them, on the table or whatever, and you don't cut them on your pans. Even on the stainless steel pans, eventually it'll leave marks. But you asked me about the stone. And I really labored over whether I should get some stones in here. I've seen them. I like, I've used them. I have one at home. But honestly, it didn't really do anything for me. And I know that there are people that absolutely swear by them. They say they really crisp up the crust. But my problem was I have a small house, and when I wasn't wanting the stone in my oven, I I didn't have a place to put it. I mean, I literally only have this much counter space. And I mean, not this much, like each side of my sink. That's all I have. So for something to be sitting there or having a place to put it, it just aggravated me. And then you have to build the pizza. Now, I actually think these would work great because you build the pizza on the table or on a pizza peel. It's the wooden, you've seen them at the pizza places where you've seen the commercial where they slide them in the big brick ovens. So you have to build it on that, and then you slide it onto the stone that's preheated in the oven. Well, what I found is that it sprinkled cornmeal in my oven, and then that smoked. The toppings fell off when I was sliding it in, and maybe I just didn't have the motion. You know, I mean, we've already witnessed that this morning. So I don't know. But I have other people that they say they absolutely would not cook pizza any other way. Yeah, she likes hers. There are some brands that you can cook, actually bake bread and cookies and things like that on. The real true stones are somewhat porous, and you can't bake cookies and things right on the stone. They are for bread dough only. I am looking at one that has an enamel or some kind of stoneware coating on it and had handles, and I really liked it. I'll think about it. I'm just going to have to use it. I think they're going to send me a sample and I'll use it. But I was kind of kicking myself that I didn't play with it a little bit more leading up to this class again to see if it was really worth having. But that's my spiel on pizza stones. For me, they were just a little bit more of an aggravation than they were worth. And I didn't just go, oh my gosh, this is, you know, the best pizza I've ever had. But yeah. The pan with the lip, she's asking these here, they'll make a little bit deeper dish pizza and they don't crisp up quite as much. Oh, the deep dish one, that really it cooks a very moist pizza. You know, she's asking about this pan, which I'm really, I'm going to do a barbecue one in this one. This one, the pizza will rise a little thicker. It'll be a little more moist. These really crisp it up. I mean, if you use thicker dough, this is going to be more like a deep dish pizza. You know, I mean, you can put more dough on here so it's thicker. But how is it? Is it okay? Okay. Oh, gosh. So, all right, that's good to hear. Because, you know, pizza is one of those things, because you don't measure anything, you're like, okay, it's one of those things, just know that some nights it's going to be better than other nights, you know. But anyway. But this pan, you can't, the only downside about this pan is you can't cut on this. And so to get the pizza out of here is a little tricky, you know, to lift it up and slide it out, where these will slide off. Even this one, even though it's a little deeper, it'll slide on out. So I've looked for some nylon. They do make nylon pizza cutters, and you can use that on here. Oh, you could certainly do that, couldn't you? Okay. Okay. Her question was, have you ever used a springform pan? And because what a great idea for the deep dish. Yes, that is a great idea. Because then once it's done, you just undo the rim, and there you got it, and you can cut on it. What a fabulous idea. Thank you. See, I love getting together. See, that's what you need to do, get together with friends and find out how they do things. So, but that's a great idea.
All right.
She asked me if I've ever done the stuffed crust. I've not really done that too much. I've not really played with that. I mean, you could, and you see how they're doing it, and then lap it back over. So take your cheese and stuff out there, and then fold the crust back over is what you're going to do. Do you understand what I'm saying? You're going to stretch the dough out. Did you see how when they stretched it out, it actually laid over the pan a little bit? And so then you'll put your cheese there, and then you'll fold the crust back over it. Is that right?
Or you can do breadsticks with cheese on top of them.
Yeah.
A little bit easier.
Yeah. So, all right. Okay. What do we got going on? The Alfredo, you want to finish those up?
Go ahead and top these off. And
yep, top them off.
Start with some smoked chicken that we did yesterday.
Yeah, this is the smoked chicken, just like I did for you in class. We just did a whole smoker full yesterday, so we'd have plenty, because I'm going to use it both for the Alfredo and for the
barbecue chicken.
Barbecue chicken pizza. Yes, we actually, oh dear, did you use mozzarella?
I used what was in the bowl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was going to do the sun-dried tomato, but that's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's going to be fabulous no matter what.
Use the wrong one.
That's okay.
Peppers are going to have a lot of flavor in them.
Somehow I'm out of sync, and I'm supposed to have, those pans are supposed to be out of the oven, but
Well, you
wait
got
a-
the potato pizza in there.
Yeah,
right
we'll
now,
wait a
so
few more
it should
minutes
be all
on
right.
it. Let's see.
Okay, so I have a question about the stuff. If you were doing a stuffed pizza,
Mm-hmm.
you don't do a whole. You're saying stretch it long and then fold it over. You don't put another whole one on top.
No. If you want to do a completely, like, stuff the whole pizza,
Stuffed, yeah.
I've never done something. That's a calzone. And then if you're doing it in that large, you're going to have trouble cooking it. I would definitely do something smaller.
Because I've done a spinach, almost like a spinach.
Sure, okay.
pizza.
Sure, if you had less toppings with just maybe some spinach and stuff, yeah. But if you're going to use a lot of toppings, I would do something smaller, like a calzone or something.
Okay, I was going to do the barbecue pizza next, but they really need to go on these pans, and they're in the oven. So I'm going to go on and do the dessert pizza, and then we'll come back to the barbecue pizza. All right? I think I've got one more pan somewhere. Yes, I do, baby. Okay.
I will sprinkle a little bit of this sun-dried tomato cheese on here. Just because I went a little light on the cheese to begin with, so it's not going to hurt anything.
But I don't want you to think pizza making is overwhelming. I hope that you see really, I know we're doing a lot, but just think about it. We've done 5 different kinds of pizzas, 2 and 3 of each kind, and we really didn't start making the pizzas until about an hour into the class because we got all of our ingredients prepped. If you have them prepped ahead of time, if I hadn't wanted to show you how I did those things and we had just come in here, we would have been done. And we would have made, 15 or so pizzas. So we're going to do a dessert pizza for you, and then we'll do the barbecue pizza. Like I said yesterday, I was kind of kicking myself going, why didn't I come up with a dessert? And Abigail and I were like, oh, we can come up with a dessert. And so we did. Yep, those are all 3 of the desserts. All right. Okay.
Yep, this is the spinach that we sauteed a little earlier.
We took you
Just
out,
kind
sorry.
of take it and fling it on there. Really is the best way to do this
Let's
instead
let
of
him
trying to
just
dump it
finish
on there.
these.
But get some real nice color on it.
Go ahead and start.
That's what I'm trying to.
Oh. And then these are the
Now,
these are the roasted red peppers that he did.
I just took some fresh red bell peppers and coated them in oil, and then put them on a sheet pan in your oven on the top shelf on broil. And it's okay if you get a little bit of char on them because you're going to end up just taking the skin off. So after you get them nice and they start to sink a little bit and wilt, and you can, like I said, even a little bit of char is even better. Then you would put them into maybe a stainless steel bowl, something like this, but a little bit bigger, depending on how many you're doing. And then you would cover them with plastic, because what's going to happen is the condensation and the steam is going to collect between the skin and the actual pepper. Wait maybe 5-10 minutes so they cool down also. And then you really can just peel that skin right off. And then you open them up, scrape all the seeds out, and then I just sliced them into slices and marinated them in some basil, thyme, a little bit of balsamic vinegar, and some oil and garlic. And they'll keep for a month if they're covered in enough oil. You really get a nice flavor, and the sweetness comes out in the peppers. So real simple to do. I'm sorry?
Yeah.
The peppers?
We'll do that.
And it's a lot cheaper than buying some roasted red peppers. Plus
How
you can
many
get
do you
that
think this was?
fresh flavor. About 5. Well, not this.
Right.
This is probably 2 or
Yeah.
3.
They're absolutely divine.
Very, very simple too. There's a little bit of labor involved, but it's definitely rewarding also because you did it yourself and you're saving some money, and the flavor is definitely going to show when you do it yourself.
You can tell who is artistic and who is not. He stretched his, and now I'm trying to fix mine.
What question is here. Right here, that.
Okay.
No,
Okay, her question is how he did the peppers. Did he do them whole or did he cut them in half?
Yes, you leave them whole. You don't core them, don't take the stem out or anything. Leave them whole and just coat them in a little bit of oil on the outside, and then just put them on a sheet pan and put them on your top shelf in the oven and turn it on broil. And like I said, and you want to turn them every couple of minutes. And then you can continue to turn them, but even, like I said, you get a little bit of char on the outside, and that's fine. It's actually great. It adds a little more flavor to it, and that's what you're trying to get. So definitely you want to leave them whole, though, because if you don't leave them whole, you're going to end up with a mess. The juices are all going to come out, and the seeds are going to go everywhere. So, yeah. All right. These are all topped off. I'm going to put a little bit of, I am going to go back and do this little one without any cheese for the lady in the front here. But, where's your Parmesan?
Right there.
Oh, yeah, right in front of me. And top these off with just a little bit of Parmesan. And the Parmesan helps, too, when you put it on here like this, to even soak up some of the extra juices, and it makes a nice little, crispy little flavors on top, and adds a little extra color and to it. So it's,
and like I said, if you're going to use raw spinach, you certainly can, and I certainly have. I did like it sauteed like this, and of course that again, you can saute it ahead of time. I'm going to tell you, this sauteed spinach on top of a piece of the smoked chicken with a little slice of provolone cheese, broiled, outstanding.
I ate that for dinner the next
Outstanding.
day.
Yeah, ate it dinner the next day. So you actually have several dinners here, at your fingertips. All right.
Now I've got a little bit of ricotta cheese here that I'm just going to take little dollops of and just kind of throw them on there whole like this.
It was the traditional.
Okay, the question was which Alfredo sauce did we use? It's the classic, the basic Alfredo. It's in your handout, the one I used. There's several, and like I said, we have several out on our website, and you've probably gotten several in handouts. The blender one that Ashley uses in her pasta class, it really doesn't matter. I have always used that one. That was the original one I used, and I know it by heart, and I make it up big batches at a time. So it just works for me. But really, any Alfredo except the jar stuff in the store. Don't do that. I'm just kidding. If you have to, go ahead. But I'm just kidding.
It's cheaper to just make it yourself, and it's 3 ingredients.
Yeah, it's so easy. Yes, ma'am? A really crispy crust. The thinner, it's going to be crispier, and cooking it at a higher temperature. And that's where a stone actually does crisp up, because you put the stone, do y'all know what I mean by a stone? It's a clay round stone, and you put it in the oven and you preheat it in the oven at 500 degrees, and you slide your pizza onto the hot stone that's in the oven. You don't take it out and try to shape the pizza. You slide it into the oven. That's why you have to either have what's called a pizza peel. I think these pans would work fine to slide off of there. You saw how slippery it is. So, but that's how you'll get a crispier crust on the bottom. Also, not layering too much sauce and ingredients and a flatter pan. This pan's going to give you a crispier crust than this pan, because the way this pan is shaped, it's going to hold some moisture in there, okay? And a hotter temperature. Hotter temperature is going to give you a crispier crust. Yes, you can always pre-bake the crust. Thank you so much. I forgot about that. Years ago, that's what I used to do, was pre-bake my crust. I'd let them rest for about 10 minutes, like right here, and then just pop them in the oven, a thin crust like this, 5 or 10 minutes, a thicker deep dish crust, 10 minutes, and just kind of set them where they're not still raw, they're not toasted or anything, but they're cooked. And I used to do that and then keep those frozen doughs in the freezer. And those, then you just take them out of the freezer and you just layer your sauce, and literally you're just heating it up. Okay? So that's another way you can pre-bake that crust to get a little crispier crust there. Oh, on the Alfredo pizza is the Alfredo pizza is the classic Alfredo sauce that's in your handout. Some mozzarella cheese, some smoked chicken, the sautéed spinach, the roasted red peppers, sprinkled a little more Parmesan. You don't have to get heavy there with that Parmesan because you'll see the Alfredo sauce is loaded with the Parmesan already. And then he just takes little dollops of the ricotta cheese and puts on there. Okay? Huh?
I put a little bit of sun-dried tomato cheese on there.
A little bit of the sun-dried tomato cheese on there. I was also thinking how good sun-dried tomatoes would be on that pizza.
It is very good.
That would just kick it up a nice notch there. Okay? Man. But see, there you go. See how that dough went out beyond? If you wanted to stuff something in there, then that's where you would really roll it on out and then flap it back over whatever you're stuffing out there. All right? All right, we need to get these are ready to go in the oven. These are our Alfredo pizzas. I think those can go a little longer.
Excuse me.
Let me have that. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Yeah. It's been so long since I've done it, I kind of had to get it back in the... Remember how I was like, all right, I'm going to test this one.
You do spin yours the opposite way.
I do.
Yeah, you do.
It's been the opposite way as you?
This way.
Yeah, I know. Everybody tells me I'm backwards. Been backwards since I was a kid. I'm going to make you a little one here without any cheese on it for you. I did put a little garlic and oil down on the crust with this one, though. So.
I like anything but cheese.
Okay.
All right, so here's our potato pizza.
I'm sorry?
All right.
I said, I like anything but cheese.
Yeah.
It doesn't like me.
Who does? Yeah.
I'm going to let you do. I'm going to let Abigail tell you what she did with the dessert pizza, because this is really kind of her. We kind of came up with. I started it, and then she finished it, and boy, did she finish it! It was fabulous. So I'm going to give her my microphone so that she can tell you what's going on, and I'm going to get the potato pizza ready to go. Whoop.
Yeah.
Okay, where do we have the cream cheese? Here it is.
You want me to cut that?
Like we said, we just put it together last night. So we said, okay, what do we have on hand that we're already using for other things to use? So you could really do any kind of fruit you wanted in this. You could leave the fruit out altogether. We did a combination of fresh pineapple. We made a pineapple cream cheese by pureeing a little bit of pineapple, and I'll tell you the measurements for this. So this is just a simple pineapple cream cheese, fresh pineapple. This is in the red cookbook as the ooey gooey filling for the coffee cake. All it is sucanat and cinnamon, a little bit of nutmeg, and butter. So it's kind of like a brown sugar topping. And then chocolate syrup. And Mom, do you have a recipe for that chocolate syrup?
Yes.
Where would they find it?
I'll have to find it for them.
She will find a recipe for the chocolate syrup. So it is going to be pineapple cream cheese, fresh pineapple, a little bit of the cinnamon brown sugar topping, and chocolate, and that's going to go on at the end. So I'll show you how we do this. Okay, so real quick, like I said, we threw this together last night. So I'm going to give you the recipe for this pineapple cream cheese really fast. We did, for 8 ounces of sour cream, which is one little package,
I think it's about done.
Cream cheese, thank you.
A little bit longer.
Soften it so that you can mix it. And a quarter of a cup of pineapple, and we pureed it
Maybe
in the
spin it and
blender.
leave it for just another
And then 2
minutes.
tablespoons of
Be nice if we
powdered
get a little-
sucanat with honey.
little
You
more
could
brown
use
on that
honey, you could use
cheese brown.
agave. We just used powdered sucanat. That's what we had. If you left the sucanat with honey, or the honey
Yeah.
crystals, I believe is what they're called. If you left them whole, they can tend to be a little grainy because the cream cheese is cold, so it won't dissolve it. So that's why we powdered it so it wouldn't give that grit. So once again, 8 ounces of cream cheese, 1/4 of a cup of pureed pineapple. You could get a canned crushed pineapple and you wouldn't have to puree it. And then 2 tablespoons of powdered honey granules. You could use 2 tablespoons of honey, 2 tablespoons of agave nectar, however you like. And taste it. If you want it a little sweeter or more pineapple, it's yours to do with whatever you want. Like we said, you could do strawberries instead of this. You could do mango instead of this, raspberries instead of pineapple, whatever you want. So, this is gonna I'm just gonna spread a little bit of this pineapple cream cheese down on the base. And you are gonna put some cream cheese on the top at the end again, so you don't have to worry about getting this too thick. You really just want a little bit down there to kind of moisten it up, kind of like a sauce.
In fact, yesterday we did it
Without this on the
cream
bottom.
cheese there. We just put the sucanat topping, and because it's sucanat and butter, it kind of oiled off. It just really needed something to kind of firm that up, hold that on there, you know.
So just a little bit on the bottom. You want to do the next one? Okay, and then we're gonna take this. She has a scoop in here, and I'm not gonna use it.
Hey Maggie, can you see if you can find me another cutter?
This is the sucanat and the butter and the cinnamon. It's the crumble topping, the ooey gooey filling. The recipe is in the red cookbook. And you don't need a lot. Don't be afraid to get all of your toppings really far out into those edges, because nobody wants the last bite to be just crust.
Right.
Nobody wants that.
Especially on this. I mean, it's one thing when you've got a savory pizza, but on this, you're wanting it all to be, well,
Okay. That's great. Awesome. Then take your fresh pineapple. And all of this is completely however much you want to use. And you don't have to, I mean, would you say they don't have to have fresh pineapple? You can cube it bigger, you can cube it smaller, however you want. You can use strawberries, raspberries, whatever. When you add chocolate and cream cheese, it doesn't really matter what fruit you put with it. It's probably going to be good. That's about how much we had yesterday, right? Okay. And that's it. And we're going to bake it for about 5 minutes. Didn't we say 5 minutes?
maybe 10.
Okay. Just want to keep an eye on it. You don't want it to get too done. You could. Just as easy. Cut out a little bit of prep time if you wanted to. And like I said, if you used crushed pineapple already, you can get it crushed. You could take out that pureeing process for the cream cheese, and it would taste the same.
Here's a potato pizza.
Can I steal this from her?
You want to give me that?
What?
This.
Oh yeah.
Some probably goes.
The very end. And I'm going to show you that step too. It's a little tedious, the very end process. So if you find a less pretty way to just get it on there, you're more than welcome to. I'll show you how I do it. It involves basically kind of getting a piping bag, or I used a Ziploc bag, softening it to it's really, warming it up to it's really soft, and drizzling it on and getting the nice decorative stripes. So I'm going to do it the tedious way. It's not that hard, but if you find an easier, less pretty way, you do it however you want. As long as it gets on there, it's going to taste good. But yes, the chocolate and the extra cream cheese is going to go on at the very end.
No.
Nope. This is the cinnamon topping.
Oh,
Yep. Sorry, I'm just repeating all the duplicating. Okay, let's start with this. Okay. Oh, what's wrong?
Hey, Caleb, do you know where my pizza pan went? Maggie, did you take my pizza pan? Huh? The stainless steel pizza pan.
That one?
Well, I have another one somewhere.
Is that correct, Mom? Is all of this pizza dough number 2?
This is actually pizza dough number 1. The
Okay. This is pizza dough number 1.
yes, the potato pizza is pizza dough number 2. Okay. Hey, Maggie, I really need somebody to find that pizza pan for me. I don't know if it got taken to the kitchen. It's the stainless steel one, the 15-inch stainless steel. Yeah, and I just took the second one off. I need 2 of them. And see, now this should have stayed covered because it's dried out a little bit, okay, and somehow it just, yes.
Do you have an oven ready for these?
Yes.
Am I putting them in this top oven? Okay. All right, these are ready to go in the oven. So we just.
Sorry, I'm having
I
microphone
didn't know if it was near you. So we just spread the cream cheese, sprinkled the brown sugar topping, put the pineapple on top, and only bake them. I'm going to set the timer for 8 and check them. You really don't want to overcook them because if the crust gets really crispy, it's just not as good.
I knew I had it out here somewhere.
Okay. Okay, Mom, you're going to have to bring your rocket science over here to set the timer for me.
All right. Okay. And this one that's...
There's a timer going over here, actually, so.
Okay.
Oh, I think I can do it. Look at that, I did it.
You're fabulous.
Okay.
All right, you can start throwing, tossing those. I'm sorry, I'm spraying like right in your face. Hurt my baby. So I'm going to put this one in the deep dish pan. Now this is gonna, we'll be fine. I'm gonna probably go in and put this one in the oven while I'm making the others because this will take a little longer to cook because of it being thicker, much thicker crust and deep dish. Okay.
Which ones do we need to roll out?
Though,
These 3?
yes, we're gonna have to use the ones that haven't rested. I'm gonna make the barbecue pizza now. And all of them except the Alfredo and the dessert are getting basted with the olive oil dipping sauce. And actually, the other night when he made the Alfredo at home, we did baste that with olive oil dipping sauce. But for some reason, the Alfredo today wanted to separate the oil off a little bit, and we just thought that might be too much since it was already oiling off.
We're about to use this, aren't we?
Mm-hmm. This pizza that I'm about to make for you is my girls, my teenage girls, this is their favorite pizza. When they're over the traditional tomato sauce meat lovers, I mean, they'll eat it and they like it, but if I'm making pizza and I ask them which one they want me to make first that's going to come out of the oven first, it's the barbecue pineapple pizza. And when I first heard about it, I thought that it sounded weird. Any of y'all never had the barbecue pineapple pizza? You've never? Okay, you're in for a real treat. So instead of tomato sauce, I'm going to use barbecue sauce. Okay? This is Cattlemen's.
Which is the best.
Which is the best. I actually think now, because I was fixing to say she's going to be mad at me again, because you can get it at Restaurant Depot, but I actually think you can get it at Sam's and BJ's now, I'm pretty sure. It's just got a really nice flavor. Someone turned me onto it years ago when they roasted a pig, back when we did eat pork, and it was just the best barbecue I'd ever eaten. And he said, it's the sauce. It's the Cattlemen sauce. So they have several styles. There's a mustard one. There's the traditional. Ours is just the original, the traditional one. So that's what this is. So I just put pretty much just like you do the tomato sauce. You really don't want to get so heavy-handed with the barbecue sauce because it's got so much more flavor that if you do, it'll be like almost overpowering.
But you're actually handling really nice.
Okay, this is the dough we didn't rest, so you're gonna
working just fine.
Okay. This one in this pan did rest, but we left it open. You really don't want to leave it open. So if you are making for a big crowd, like a party, and you do put the dough balls on the pan, while you're working with your other pizza, make sure you get that pan back in the trash bag. Don't just leave the dough balls, laying around. Don't leave your dough balls laying around. Wow, what a pizza making tip was that? You like what? Yeah, put it on the trash bag, Okay. You could certainly use the sun-dried tomato here. I'm going to just use the traditional mozzarella. Hang on, something's beeping at me. Well, Abby, I don't see where you have any of these set.
No. I set it over on this one. It's got 3.5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
That one was being used, so I just moved over there. How are they looking though?
They're good.
They're done?
No, they're not too done.
Oh yeah. Oh, they're looking really good though.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to use just my traditional mozzarella.
Which dough is this one that you mixed up today?
That's dough number 2. I feel like door number 2. Every time I say that, dough number 2. Okay. Whoa. That was not good. Okay. I keep snapping it in. I just don't know why it keeps coming out. I think must be pulling the cord. Okay. All right, y'all ready for this? Dough number 1 was the traditional meat lovers,
Which they should have eaten already.
which you should have eaten already, and the dessert pizza. Okay. Dough number 2 is the barbecue, the alfredo, and the potato. The alfredo and the potato was dough that had rested 24 hours.
I'm doing it.
I think that we've got it and we're pulling it. Okay, so for our barbecue chicken, this is some of our smoked chicken. So we'll put some pieces of it here. And I just think you can't improve on fresh pineapple. And with our new pineapple peeler, slicer, corer things that are like $10, buy those whole pineapples and just have at it. Really good. But I have used canned pineapple when I decided I was gonna, you know, when you got dough in the refrigerator, you got smoked chicken in the refrigerator, and you got barbecue sauce and cheese, you're like, oh, I think I can make a barbecue pizza tonight, and you don't have fresh pineapple, and you got a can in the cabinet, so just go for it. The barbecue sauce, I put mozzarella cheese. And so now I'm just going to sprinkle it with pineapple. On the Alfredo pizza, I have done mushrooms and onions on that before too. That's really good. I love mushrooms and onions.
Okay, what am I doing with this last one? Am I supposed to be making it?
Nope, it's extra. So if you'll put it in a plastic bag, and that will be probably dinner tomorrow. Okay. I don't, but Caleb probably would. Did we caramelize the onions before we put them on the pizza? We talked about it last night. I don't typically caramelize my onions. I put them on. It just depends on what your taste preference is. I don't typically saute my spinach, but he does. So, you know, I think either one would be fabulous. All right? So I'm going to go on and get this cooking over here.
Are those bags in the microwave? Okay, thanks.
Because that one will probably take a little longer than these.
Hey, Mom, what do you think on these crusts? I think they do need 2 more minutes at
Okay.
least. What do you think? So I want you to look at them because you're the expert.
I'm the expert. Yeah, I think they need to go a little longer.
How much do you think? 2, 3 more minutes?
3 more minutes, yeah.
Okay, so on those dessert pizzas, I started them off at 8, and we're going to put them in for 3 more minutes. So we were right at about 10 minutes, and just keep an eye on them. Really, the only thing we're looking for is to see if the crust is done, because everything else technically doesn't have to be cooked. It's just cream, cheese, and fruit. So you're just watching the crust.
Is that still at the 400 to 450 degrees?
Yep. Yep, it is.
Yeah, just really soft. Yep, that's perfect.
Okay, I put the deep dish pizza in. I've gone on and put it in. I didn't set a timer because I'm going to just set the timer for all of them when I put this one in, because I think they're going to have to cook. That one's going to have to cook a little bit longer. Do you mind spreading this?
I'm just trying to see if this is soft enough.
And for years, I made pizza without basting it with olive oil. So, I mean, if you forget, don't go, oh, it's going to be, it's not. I mean, it's going to be fine. But an Italian person told me this, and I'm like, okay, I'll do that.
Sorry, I made some of these crusts a little long.
That's okay. Hey, Caleb, I don't know if you have the smoked chicken over there, but I actually might need some of that we smoked today. That would be great.
Mm-hmm.
And again, on this size pizza, I find that about 12 to 16 ounces works. Really about 12 ounces, you know, works really well. It might be in the kitchen. Oh, there it is on the table.
Do you have some more barbecue?
I do.
Don't you think this needs just a little more?
Mm-hmm. Here's the barbecue sauce that I get it in gallon jugs. I actually think I found this little bottle at Walmart. I actually think I did. In fact, my 18-year-old, that's where it was. It was Kroger. My 18-year-old daughter absolutely loves barbecue sauce. She eats it on everything, absolutely everything. And you should have seen her. You would have thought I had just bought her a pair of shoes or something. When I came in with this bottle, she was like, oh my gosh, I I can put that in my purse and take it with me.
She did for a couple of weeks.
She
would get to a
She
restaurant
carried it around.
whip it out of her purse and
She
put it
would
on the table.
just like, you know, she's hilarious. So y'all are probably like, I just don't know if I would ever want to go out to eat with the Beckers. They're just like bringing rolls in their purse and barbecue sauce. And Abby took agave nectar one trip because she went out west. She traveled with a paintball team, and if you go outside of the South, they don't know what sweet tea is. And if you say, I want sweet tea, they go, what? I mean, they don't even understand that you're meaning sweetened tea. They just go, I don't know what that is. And you're like, you know, tea that is sweetened? And they're like, well, the sugar's on the table. And they don't understand that that doesn't work. You know, you can't mix cold tea with sugar. It just doesn't work. The agave nectar works. Let me just tell you. You can pour it right on the top of those ice cubes and just stirs right in it because it doesn't harden or anything like that. Abigail was kind of the same way. She carried the little bottle of, agave nectar in her purse.
Sorry, what do you think of those crusts now?
They're smelling good.
They smell great. Will you check those? I'm going to go warm this up a little more.
I think they could go just 3 more minutes.
Okay.
Actually, when that goes off, we'll just bring them all out.
Okay.
No, I think that's good. You can just put it in there. Will you open that bag for me? All right.
Where did we put that bowl of pineapple cream cheese? The display bowl that we were spooning out of.
There it is.
Yeah.
This is the part of the class where we start going, okay, where is this? Where is this? Because it's gotten whisked away.
But we're almost to the part where you get to eat everything.
Okay, so you've had the potato pizza. What'd you think of the potato pizza? You liked it? I would have never thought of doing a pizza out of potatoes, but one of the pizza places did it there for a while, and my kids just thought it was fabulous. And I'm like, okay, we can do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Not all of it, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, so there's our barbecue pizza. And if I do use the chunks, I think you could do the crushed if you want to, but when I do usually I have chunks of pineapple. I do cut them in half, typically. This was fresh pineapple, and so we cut them even a little smaller than that, than half of those chunks, but that's what I do. And again, you don't have to, but it's your pizza. Do what you want. All right. Got our last
so
one.
We're done on these? And is that other stuff coming out too? This timer was for both?
We'll just have to check it and see what it looks like. See, this crust is almost big enough you could almost stuff it.
Do I need a hot pad to set the cookie sheets in?
Mm-hmm. All righty. Any questions?
Okay.
Y'all are just so quiet. I can't get over it. It's because we don't have Ashley out here to be rowdy with me.
You're saying I'm boring?
No.
I can liven it up.
You can sing and dance. You said liven it up, not sing and dance. I do want to remind you that I do have a nonprofit ministry, Real Bread Outreach. I'm so excited about where we're going with that. We were able to give,
Good?
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's perfect. Okay.
We gave numerous meals to several elderly couples last year, supplying bread for a lady that's bedridden with psoriasis. The bread totally took care of her psoriasis. I mean, she was bedridden with it so badly, could hardly wear clothes, could hardly go to work. Just so excited in just a couple of weeks of being on the bread. But she just, because she couldn't work, she couldn't afford to even do anything, and of course physically couldn't make the bread. So real excited about that. So I'm just excited about the things that we're doing. So
These look done, don't they?
oh yes, I think so. Oh, y'all got to see. Hey Maggie, bring me 2 big boards there. You got to see these. But be sure to pick up a brochure. We're just really moving forward. Wait do you see this?
Here is, which one is this? Sorry, the spinach.
Alfredo.
Alfredo
That's
and
the chicken Alfredo pizza.
So how great do those look?
You
I
want
can
to
set it on the board.
Oh, that's a good idea. All right.
Ooh.
Another
even better.
Oh yeah. Now, okay, you can tell which one's Caleb's and which one's mine.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's not funny. Well, he said he was just flinging the spinach on, so I just figured he flung the peppers on too.
Okay, I'm going to show you how I finished up these dessert pizzas, and this is the part that's a little tedious. What I did is all of the cream cheese, the pineapple cream cheese that we didn't use earlier, I put it all in a Ziploc bag, and I warmed it up so that it's really soft. You can see how loose and runny it is. And what we're going to do is we're going to snip the tip off of this, and we're going to use it like a piping bag. So if you have piping bags, you can use that. You can buy boxes of disposable piping bags for just a few dollars. That's easy. Or Ziploc bag, bread bag, anything that you can just snip the little tip off. Same thing with the chocolate, and Mom has this recipe for this chocolate syrup. We just warmed it up till it's nice and liquidy, and we're just going to drizzle it on, okay? And I'm going to show you how to make it kind of pretty presentation-wise.
Excuse me just a minute. What was the other thing you wanted? Oh, you wanted the roasted red pepper. That I don't have written down, so I'll try to get that up on the website. But I can probably get you that chocolate sauce recipe, all right? And then you told them how you did the cream cheese and the pineapple.
I did.
All right. So let me go talk to my number 1 child. She can find the chocolate sauce.
Okay. So we're just going to drizzle this on.
Are you in the mirror? Okay.
Yep, this is the exact same thing that was your base as well. Then for the really good stuff, the chocolate. And this doesn't have to be perfect lines. I'm just weaving this back and forth. And then I go back and try and do it the opposite direction as well.
Hang on a minute. Come here.
Now you guys can hear me for real? Is that better?
Oh my.
Okay, don't touch it. I'm not done. I'm not done. You can't have it yet.
Yeah, as she told me.
You don't try and take a, dessert pizza away from a pregnant girl who made it. I mean, come on, you're playing with fire there. Okay, so technically you could leave it just like this and that looks really pretty, but also to do that technique that you see where they just kind of do the little drags through it, it's just as easy to look. You just kind of, well.
Are you in the, yep.
Am I in the mirror? Okay. You just kind of drag through it. And I used a fork yesterday.
You want a fork?
No, it doesn't matter. And you're just lightly skimming the top so that it gets those little drag marks. You don't really want to move all the toppings. So you're just lightly dragging it across the top. And then it gives it that really fun kind of marbly look. Like I said, it all eats the same, so if you want to just slap it on there, you go for it. And then I go the opposite way too. You can do it however you want. You can use a fork, you can use a knife, anything just with a little tip on it that you can just smear through it. Okay, tell me, doesn't that look fun? And it's going to taste even better. So we're going to go through this one. Can any of you guys on the front row smell this? Smell the chocolate and the pineapple? It's real good. Just take my word for it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
The spinach, okay, so she's eating her spinach Alfredo pizza without cheese, and she says it's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your bread and chicken and pepper, I mean, it's fabulous. I mean, you can't go wrong with smoked chicken and roasted peppers and sautéed spinach. All right, you ready?
Yeah, sorry, let me transfer
The biggest downside of the USA pans, you just slide it.
Here, just stick it under for me.
Okay. They are so nonstick. In fact, when we first started carrying them, like 2 or 3 days after we started carrying them, Ashley actually did bread making 102, you know, a second level class, and she did pizza in them. And she took it out of the oven and she went to sit it on the counter, and the pizza went flying across. You know, so just know that. Well, it didn't. Thankfully, the counter's big because it stopped right about.
So I can carry it over there. There we go.
And y'all are like, if you drop those, we're going to be real upset.
No
Now,
idea
what
how
should
we're
I
doing
do with this? I'll wash my hands. Man, that was hard.
Sorry, I still have one more to make. I just didn't have room.
All right.
Oh, it's hot.
I don't know where our wash rag is.
It's
Got it. Okay. Any questions? Did you like that? Oh, Caleb, did you put the basil on the Alfredo pizza? Okay. Caleb actually thin sliced some fresh basil, and he's going to sprinkle that on the Alfredo pizza now that it's done. There's some herbs that you wanna cook, like rosemary, those heavier ones that they do nice, they release the oils and stuff. But basil and some of the more delicate ones you can actually sprinkle on after they come out of the oven to just give it that little over-the-top flavor. So he's going to sprinkle some fresh basil. We didn't have it the other night, and it was absolutely divine without the fresh basil. So just know that if you don't have it, you don't have to use it. Got a sneeze? Bless you. Excuse me. Actually, my wonderful employee in the office is finding it right now, and she will have them printed for you by the time we let out. Because you still got to wait on the barbecue pizza if you want any.
And you
sorry.
want it.
I'm sorry about you never know how the timing's going to actually play out. You know, your best laid plans. And, you know, leave it to me. I add one too many things. But are you glad we added the dessert? Well, you haven't decided yet. You'll tell me in a minute if you're glad we added the dessert.
Do they really need to taste it?
That what? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I was thinking that would be good in the fall if you put
Apple.
some apples in a
Yeah.
caramel sauce.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, that was what yesterday when I was like, oh, I've got some of that. We call it the ooey gooey topping. This, you know, the sucanat and butter and cinnamon and nutmeg is all that is. When I was thinking about that, I usually always have apples, and I was like, man, I could just do that and the apples, and that's why I actually sprinkled it just plain on the crust without the cream cheese, because I thought with the apples it would be kind of like a cinnamon roll, you know, and so that's what was my thought exactly. But I think you could. Right. Her question is, do you think that you would put just a little cream cheese? Maybe. I don't know. I don't even know if you would need to sweeten it there. You know, just play around with it. You honestly aren't going to go wrong. I mean, even yesterday it was kind of like, this is still really, really good. You know, you're talking a crust with some cinnamon and apples and, you know, whatever. I think the sky's the limit there. You could even do pie filling, you know, I mean, if you wanted to. But I mean, I think raspberries, blueberries, anything.
Strawberries. You could do mango if you want to do instead of pineapple.
Yeah, but the caramel with the apples on there would be fabulous. And there's a caramel icing, that caramel sauce that goes on the apple cake. Did anybody come to the fall class that I did with the spelt apple cake? That caramel icing there is fabulous. It's not in the book. It probably is on the website somewhere. It's the spelt apple cake. So let me talk grains for you just to, I think I kind of interrupted myself several times. For pizza crust, you want a hard wheat because it is yeast. I personally like hard white. Even though I'm a fan of hard red and that's my favorite bread making wheat, I find that the red just kind of overpowers some of the flavors there. So you really want a bland wheat here. If you want to put some of the red wheat in there to give it a little more flavor, I would do 2 parts white and 1 part red, okay? Also, those of you that need to stay away from your traditional wheats a little bit, kamut will work very, very well. And kamut's your bland, you know, a little bland and actually very nice flavor. But it doesn't have that rich, strong, nutty flavor like your other grains do. Spelt would still work. Spelt's going to give you a little nuttier flavor. I would mix part spelt and part kamut if you needed to do spelt and kamut. Okay. Corn, we just grind the corn up for the cornmeal. The dehydrator, of course, is what we use to dehydrate the zucchini and squash for the pepperoni substitute. Did y'all like that? I mean, could you really taste it on there? Good. And then the scales, of course, we sell. I really use them. I use them even still. I have a kitchen scale at home. I use for my bread dough because I just divide it out. I'm pretty good at eyeballing it, and I always think, wow, I just really did good when they all weighed the same thing. But I really do, depending on the size of the pan. I love our kitchen scales. The pizza pans, the more I use the USA pans, absolutely, hands down, the more I love them. I mean, they're just phenomenal. They bake really nicely. The pizza roller. I want to show you, we grated all this cheese actually with the box grater. I usually use my attachment to my kitchen assistant, and I did for the bulk of the cheese. But let me see if I can find mine. Hold on. I don't know where mine went. I had it out here yesterday. It's probably in the kitchen where they used it. This particular box grater is the same. It's made by the same company that makes our new zesters. There's no comparison in this zester and any other zester on the market. It is not just stamped so that the metal, not tint, but the metal just is sticking out, and that's what makes it sharp. It's actually sharpened. It's very, very sharp. And then they did etching, which was so, again, one of those innovative things that, why didn't I think of that? They etched the metal so you get a very easy glide, even with sticky cheese. You won't mind using a box grater, because I typically use my attachment because it's like, you know, grating. It's just, it's phenomenal. The cool thing about the zester is very sharp, zests very nicely. This is your cover to protect you from, you know, raking your knuckles across it. You put it on the back side, you zest, and then you tap it like that on the little rubber bottom, and it shakes it all down, and it's graduated, so you've got your teaspoons and tablespoons measurements here. Just very, very innovative by this company. And then the same with this, it's got the 4 sides, and then the you can actually grate with this on, so then you can just take it out and shake it. And then this is your ginger grater. Have y'all ever used fresh ginger? I mean, you can use the plainer, the zester, or you can use this to grate your ginger. If you've never used fresh ginger, you're really missing something, and it just takes it over the top if you're using ginger in something. Just very, very nice. You had a question for a while. I'm so sorry. I keep... Okay. Okay. Her question is if we're making, I keep referring to yeast bread, that you want hard wheat. You must have hard wheat if you're using yeast, because yeast makes the bread rise by feeding on the wheat and producing carbon dioxide. And it's the gluten that is in your hard wheat that you need, and that's what makes the dough become stretchy, and that's why you have to need yeast bread, because you're developing that gluten, it makes it stretchy. And as the yeast produces carbon dioxide, the dough actually traps it and it stretches, and that's how a yeast bread rises. Your non-yeast breads use baking powder as your leavening, and those are called quick breads. Those are activated by liquid and by heat. So have you ever noticed you put your liquid in and instantly it gets kind of thick, and then you put it in the oven and it rises even more. So those don't need gluten. So really, you ask what is my grain of choice? It depends on what I'm making. It really doesn't matter. You can use a hard wheat in a non-yeast recipe. You can make muffins and coffee cake and things like that out of your hard wheat. I did it for years. I really did not start using soft wheat until it's probably been about 10 years, maybe now, 8 or 9 years, but I've been milling my own wheat for 18 years now. So it was much later on. A soft wheat is what you want to use for your pastries, for your cakes, your cookies, muffins, if you really want them more like a cupcake. It's just going to depend there. Brownies, that's what you're going to use, your soft wheat. And if you ever see a recipe that calls for whole wheat pastry flour, that's soft wheat. Spelt, though it does have enough gluten to use as a yeast bread, it really cooks up more like a soft wheat. So it really is kind of like the best of both worlds. It's got that nutty red wheat flavor. It's got enough gluten to make yeast bread, but it cooks up like a soft wheat, so it makes great cakes and cookies and brownies, but it will give you that red wheat flavor. So it just is going to depend on the taste of your family. My kids loved red wheat pancakes until I made them with soft wheat the first time. And then they were like, okay, this is like the old Bisquick pancakes you used to make, So the soft wheat is going to come out more of a white flour texture. Okay, did that answer your question a little there? Her question is, do I only use the scale to measure the finished dough? Pause just a minute. I got a beeper over here, and I think it's your barbecue pizza that you're not going to want me to burn. I'm going to let it go about 2 more minutes. Okay. If y'all want to bring some breadboards out for the barbecue pizza, then we'll serve it. How have y'all had the dessert pizza yet? No. Okay, it's coming. The Alfredo pizza? Was that fabulous? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, what was oh, the scale. I know a lot of recipes now weigh the ingredients, and I know commercially, like in baking, they do recipes by weight. Europeans do recipes by weight. America still pretty much does still the standard, cups, ounces, whatever, measurement. So I rarely weigh my ingredients. I really use my scale for my finished dough when I'm making bread dough. Now, like I said, I do a lot of times weigh my cheese when I grate it in bulk, so I don't just go crazy with it, and I know about how much I'm going to use and how much I have. So I'll use it for some things, but most of the time it's for my finished dough. But I did pick up a recipe not too long ago, a cookbook, and it was all weights. the recipe. So we might be getting more and more towards that. You know, it said so many ounces of flour and so many ounces of liquid. But mostly I use my scale for the finished dough. I do know in the pasta making class, Ashley does weigh her grain. And that's the way the pasta machine works. It says like 2 pounds of flour or, you know, grain. And she does do that. Because a pound of grain gives you a pound of flour. A cup of grain gives you a cup and a half of flour. You understand the difference there? You don't lose anything as far as weight-wise. You gain volume, though, when you grind it and fluff it all up. Any other questions besides when is the barbecue pizza coming out and how fast are you serving that dessert pizza? Yes. How should you store the gluten? Gluten really does not have to be refrigerated. So it doesn't matter. I usually put mine in a jar and just keep it, or a little canister, just keep it on my kitchen counter, and it stores indefinitely. The lecithin does not have to be refrigerated, but it has about a 6-month to 1-year shelf life. And I think the rice lecithin may be a little longer than that. So to extend the shelf life there and just to make sure that it doesn't go badly, I usually keep it in the refrigerator. But you don't have to. I usually use mine up way before, you know, 6 months or so. But I would. And always, the lecithin in particular, don't store it in the plastic bags in your pantry or your cabinet. Put it in a jar or a canister. The bugs love, those grain moths love the lecithin. Okay? Hang on a minute. Can I get 2 boards and I'll put this pizza out? Big. Big, big. Man, this is like all I can do to not lick this pan. But after the caramel icing incident in the fall class, yeah, I've learned my lesson. Oh, she's wanting to hear my incident, my caramel icing incident. And you know what's so funny? It was so embarrassing, and I've told just about every class about it since then. So I'm going to let that stay just like 1 more minute, and I'll tell you my caramel story. I was making the spelt cake, and it has a caramel icing, and it's really just butter and the sucanat, and I think cream, and you just cook it and you boil it for like a minute or so, and then you put it in ice water. You know, you put the pot down in ice water and you stir it until it thickens enough for an icing, because it's really runny once you boil it, but it thickens up as it cools. And so as it began to cool and thickened up, I was sitting there, I was going, oh my goodness, do you know how good this would be just as a dip to serve, you know, with apples and fresh fruit, and just forget the cake, you know, just serve this as a dip. And I was like, oh my, I have apples left over from where I had prepped them for the cake and didn't use them all. And they were in the refrigerator. So I went, oh my, I'm just going to do this, you know. So I went over, I thought I was being so smart and going to pull one on the class. I was going to get to enjoy caramel apples, and they weren't. So I pulled the cold sliced apples out of the refrigerator, and when I dipped it in the caramel, it hardened it, unbeknownst to me. And as soon as I popped it in my mouth, the whole thing just hardened right in my front teeth and locked my jaw together. I mean, it was like, I can't talk now. And I mean, so I was laughing so hard, I about cried. And so anyway, and like I said, you know, there was, I don't know how many people there were there that day, but I keep telling the story on myself. But it's just funny. It's just one of those things that just happened. And you were like, okay, why exactly did I do that? So I'm learning to not eat so much when I'm up here, you know, cooking for y'all. But I actually, I went home after that. I think I did a class, and I just, you know, it's so funny. I'm my worst critic. I go home after a class and I was like, that was terrible, you know. And then it's funny, the classes that I sometimes think I did the worst in, people are like, that was great. And then the ones I think I did the best in, you know, I might get somebody said, you should have done this. And, you know, I'm like, okay, whatever. But anyway, so I was pretty depressed after a class one day. And I went home and decided I was going to watch the Food Network so I could learn some things. And I watched my precious Paula Deen. Hold on, I got to get another board. Who's from Savannah, which is where I was born and raised. And I keep telling her she needs me on her show, but she never has fallen for it yet. But anyway, one day, we never know. But anyway, so I went home, and she was actually coming on. I watched a couple others, but she was making the the lime sherbet punch that was served at her wedding, and it was her grandmother's recipe, and she was just going to town, you know, and she says, and then you do this, and she goes, and now, y'all, she goes, this is just the best part. You're going to put this lime sherbet in there, and then she had a spatula, and she's just like scooping that, it was like this. She's scooping that lime sherbet in there, and she says, oh, and we could just forget this punch and eat the sherbet. And she just went like that and lit that spoon like that and just laid it down. And then and then she started doing something else. And the very next thing, she picked that up, and she just started putting that lime sherbet right back in there. And I went, I don't feel so bad after all. So anyway, and I could tell a story on Caleb. You want me to tell a story on Caleb? This was, we started our business in 1992, so Caleb was born in 83, so he would have been somewhere around 9 or 10 years old. And we used to do cooking classes in the little, you can actually take the whole pan and all now to over there if you want. I just put them there because I can't sit hot things on my counter. So we used to do little cooking classes in the community center, and the kids would help me. I mean, you know, it was just real laid back, kind of like they are now, but he was 9. And a real old friend of mine was in the class, and Caleb, we were making cinnamon rolls, and we were rolling them up, and all of a sudden I noticed my friend going, well, Caleb was putting the stuff on the cinnamon roll going, he was just having a ball, licking his fingers and rolling that dough, you know? And I was like, oh, well, what can I say? You know? So anyway, you know, so I didn't feel so bad when I saw Paula Deen just lick that spoon, put it down, pick it up, and use it again later. So anyway, and I just said that on website, so I need to be careful what I say. Hey, Paula, I love you. I think you're fabulous. So anyway, she's been an inspiration to me. Yeah. So, and she may have cut to a break and come back, and that might have been a totally different spatula, but, you know, it was about as good as you want me to tell you another story on me? Y'all are waiting on pizza, so I might as well really tell y'all stories. I could do something, you know, constructive, but the best was the first time they recorded me. We were going to try to get my demonstration on video, and I absolutely hate to watch myself. I hate to hear myself. I hate to watch myself. And I go, how does anybody sit there and listen to me for that long? Just don't like the sound of my voice. Until I heard Paula Deen. First time I ever heard her, I was at a gym exercising, and I was like, who is that lady with the most southern accent I've ever heard talking about cooking food? And I went over, and I was a fan immediately. I was like, well, I just don't feel so bad after all, you know. But yeah, so they were trying to get me on tape, and I had been rolling dough, you know, and I had dough on my hands and stuff, and I got to talking, and so I'm sitting there, and I've got the dough kind of like on my fingers, so I'm just kind of sitting there getting this dough off my nails and just kind of rubbing it like that, and then kind of got it in a ball. And I mean, you're just doing it without thinking, you know, just kind of, well, like now, you know, just kind of like this. Well, then I got an itch on the side of my nose, and so I went like that and itched my nose, and then I went like that and then went like that. Right on camera. All I know is I was taking a nap. It was a Sunday afternoon, and Brad and the guy that filmed the class were editing it in the living room. All I know is I hear this uproar of laughter, and I've never watched that video. Never. To this day. Never. And anyway, so that was so there you go, you know. And that's what I get real nervous now, knowing that I'm on film. You know, if you have a bad class and you do something really bad, you know, what happens at the Bread Becker stays at the Bread Beckers. No longer, because it's now archived. I went home after the Christmas class, and I called Jim the next day, and I was like, I think I want you to take that class down. That was the worst class I've ever done in my whole life. I was depressed for 3 days after that class. And anyway, how many of y'all were at the Christmas class? I was like, oh my gosh, that was horrible. And it's forever etched. So y'all are probably all going to go home and watch it now. Like, we want to see when she flings something at us. But anyway. How long do you think the chocolate syrup would keep in the fridge? We're going to throw something at Brad before this class is over. He is back there like going ballistic because I'm not repeating the question. And he doesn't just go like this. He goes, you know, like this. So I'm sorry if I'm getting a little distracted. It's Brad's fault. But I'm hesitant to tell you this because I have 2 Latvian sons. They want to know when everything was made. If it was made 2 days ago, it's old. They do not want to eat it. When did you make this whipping cream? How old is this? They smell everything. How old is this? So I'm a little hesitant to tell you how old that chocolate syrup is. Last Christmas. Not last Christmas. Last Christmas. It's over a year old. It's been in the refrigerator. Keeps forever. It keeps forever. I mean, it's chocolate and sugar, and it keeps forever. You boil it, and then you just keep it. It does sugar up, and so we have to melt it to, melt those crystals back down. That's the only thing I noticed that when I keep it in there. Makes great hot chocolate, great sauce for strawberries. If it's fabulous, and it just. Oh yeah, yeah. And that's what's nice because then you're not using junky, stuff that has artificial everything in it. Real easy to make. It just boils up, and then you boil it like covered for a certain amount of time, and then uncovered. Honestly, I mean, I don't even think you stir it the whole time. You don't stir it, and so it keeps in the refrigerator. And so I make a lot and put it in jars or containers and just keep it in the refrigerator. I think I actually have some in my refrigerator at home that's several years old, but don't tell my sons. Yes. I didn't quite catch. Say that again. Uh-huh. Oh. Okay, she's asking if the chocolate sauce is good for diabetics. I don't know that good would be the correct term. Could they tolerate it? Possibly. I find with the sucanat and the sucanat with honey as sweeteners that a lot of insulin-dependent diabetics even can handle it because it is metabolized more slowly. I feel like if you're eating lots of whole grains are the key to getting that blood sugar under control. Don't let anybody tell you bread is bad for a diabetic. The bread in the store, yes, and the bread in the store is the reason we have epidemic diabetes in our country today, even among young children. Whole grains are the key. Fresh fruits and vegetables, fiber is the key to stabilizing that blood sugar and getting it under control where you don't get that rapid rise and then that fall. The high protein, low carb stuff that everybody talks about, carbohydrates, real whole grains are key in stabilizing your blood sugar. Classic example, my mother-in-law had trouble a few years back getting her, we were on the way on vacation and she was with us. She commented on the way down. Did I ever take those pizzas out? Yes. Sorry. All of a sudden I'm like, whoa. She commented on the way down that she was having trouble getting her blood sugar under control, and she had increased her insulin. She was now on nighttime oral medication. And we were on the way down to Florida. We cook all the meals. Our kids used to play paintball, and we cook all the meals for the whole paintball team and everything. I mean, I made pizza one night. I made cinnamon rolls in the morning. I made all the bread and rolls that we made sandwiches with. We had fajita night where I made everything that we ate and cooked was the freshly ground whole grains. So my mother-in-law is, of course, calculating her carbohydrates to determine how much insulin she needs to use. And I warned her. I said, now, Mom, you might want to be careful and not calculate this the way you would, maybe another type of carbohydrate. Now, mind you, on the way down, she had told me she was having trouble with her blood sugar, getting it under control. By the second day, and the second night, we had pizza, and I had made brownies out of sucanat with honey and the soft wheat flour for dessert. And she had even had that, and she had forgotten to take her nighttime medication. The second day she woke up, her blood sugar, her waking blood sugar was 60. That is very low. I mean, not dangerously low, but that is very low. That is normal or below. For a waking blood sugar. 90, I think, waking is pretty good. So it was, what I'm saying, so the whole grains are key. But to answer your question simply, she ate brownie made out of the sucanat with honey, and it didn't at night, and it didn't spike her blood sugar up, and even forgot her oral medication, and it didn't spike her blood sugar up. Sage and tupelo are honeys that diabetics can usually tolerate because they're broken down in your body a little more slowly. However, I've heard of other insulin-dependent diabetics tell me they can't use the Sucanat and Sucanat with honey. Okay, I have others that tell me they can. Some that even tell me they can sweeten their iced tea with it. I think it's going to just depend on the person, what's going on in your body, what damage, how well your body is working, and what else you're eating with it. If you're still eating white flour here, white flour there, white flour here, you're not going to see the results. You got to get the white flour out of your house. Don't do it, and you can make anything out of freshly ground whole grain flour. I promise you, you can. Anything, and it will be delicious and wonderful. I'll never forget, years ago, I volunteered. I volunteer for craziest things sometimes, but I volunteered. It was shortly after we had begun milling our wheat and making our bread. So my kids were fixing to all go off to church camp for a week, and I was like, man, I really don't want them eating, junky food. So that was part of my motivation. But the other one was I like to cook and I like to serve. So I volunteered to make all the meals for 200 kids at church camp. I mean, I had a commercial kitchen and I had helpers, but I mean, to go from, you know what the most valuable tool in a school cafeteria is? A box cutter. That's their most valuable kitchen utensil. It's what they use. I was going to go from industrialized, prep, dump it in a pan and pop it in a, convection oven and heat it, to grinding all of our wheat and making all the pancakes, the cinnamon rolls, every bit of the sandwich bread, the muffins. So anyway, the first day of camp, it's morning or it's nighttime, and I made the dinner rolls to go with the barbecue chicken, corn on the cob, and the other things that I made for them. The next morning, I did muffins and grits and eggs. And one of the church, actually it was the pastor's wife, she came and she said, okay, the kids are a little depressed of the healthy food. They really want, something not healthy. And I'm like, okay. So, their favorite dessert was strawberry shortcake, and I served the pancakes with strawberries and whipped cream. So I thought, their favorite dessert is strawberry shortcake, then they're going to love pancakes. I don't know what it is about some kids, if they're not around a lot of different kind of food, they were like, there's no syrup. They did not want to eat the pancakes because there was no syrup to put on. I'm like, okay, your favorite dessert is strawberry shortcake, and you don't want to put strawberries and whipped. That was just weird to them. So anyway, they were kind of weirded out by the food that I was serving. So the turning point, I told the lady, I said, just give me till tonight. Just give me till tonight. I'll win their hearts. Sure enough, pizza night. They were forever mine after that. They absolutely loved the pizza. And then after that, it was fabulous. They loved everything I made. I did cinnamon rolls and, everything I made. But the pizza was the turning point. So if you have a real hardcore that just still not quite sure they want to eat this healthy stuff, make them pizza. Just make them pizza. So did you like the pizza? You're okay with it? All right, good. Yes. Yeah, her question is, how does it affect the nutritional value of the dough, of the wheat, because it does oxidize once it's milled. From everything I have read, and I actually had a bread biochemist, explain this to a customer of mine, and she passed the information on to me. Once the yeast starts working, it actually produces carbon dioxide, and that displaces the oxygen going on, and so the oxidation actually stops. So you're okay to let that dough sit. You may lose some, but this is not your everyday, day in and day out bread. But according to them, the oxidation stops, and you're all right there. So I wouldn't worry about letting your dough sit and freezing it and keeping it and for use later. Did y'all get every kind of pizza there is? Did you? All right. Okay, well, get your barbecue pizza there, girly. All right. I can't think. I thought of something else I was going to tell you, but it just left me. I'll think about it tonight when I'm laying in bed and go, oh, I didn't tell him that. Yes?
Come get a piece on their way out.
Yeah. This is the other thing. A class kept sitting here waiting on me. I was like, the class is over. And they were like, no, you forgot to serve the Reuben bread. We're like, okay. And then another class that I had run so long, and I said, well, y'all just get it as you pass out. I meant as you leave. So thank you. Y'all have a great day. God bless you all.
You're a nutritionist who study food so much. I have an allergy to fresh pineapple.
Uh-huh.
But if it's cooked or canned, I can eat it.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I guess it's probably, that's like my,
Is that the enzyme?
yes, it's the enzyme, it's the bromelain. Bromelain. That's what my my little coworker, the little girl up in the office, Jenna, she was so bummed. She goes, "You're not going to put pineapple on